What do you mean? Like, do I want?
Like, is that something that's like visually appealing?
I prefer not to look into the camera.
Okay.
I feel like it's one thing if you have like sometimes a guest will be like, can I look at the camera? He's like, oh yeah, go for it. He's like, Elon, forgive Joe, or like something like that. Like that's fun, but like I try my best. It's hard when we first start like this, especially after all the fucking headache and frustration it takes to get started. But like after like 5-10 minutes of talking, and kind of starts to become natural. You just do our best to like ignore it.
Yeah.
I know
No,
what
I was
I
just
could
curious
do.
on a visual standpoint if it was something that was like nice. But I felt like now that I think about it, it would be weird if you were like, it would be very directed towards the audience of like, and in this broadcast, you won't believe it, just in fucking Russia, Ukraine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Well, that's more if you're going for that, like if you're
yeah,
going
like, if
for
you're
that
like,
kind
this
of
is
like
the Daily Show with Cruz Merritt. Then
yeah,
maybe,
exactly,
You know what I mean?
like fucking breaking points or some shit like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going more for just like just a hang,
Yeah.
kind of cruise merit experience. All right, so let's have some whiskey here.
Let's do it, dude.
Or I've had such a headache getting the shit set up right now. I'm not gonna mess with it. But now I realize what would be better is if I had this fisheye camera. I think at that end of the table, like hopefully it could get both of us. Like we could do a shot where we like cheers, like a shot, like as in like the camera shot of us like cheersing.
Shot
Yeah,
and a shot.
a shot of a shot, exactly. But here, let me leave the tall one for David, the littlest one for me, the medium one for Grant. Same amount of whiskey, just different size glasses. So, cheers, my friend. See, like there, I looked at the camera.
We're doing the whole thing.
Oh yeah, I'm an alcoholic.
Okay, hold on, I gotta mentally prepare myself.
I'm similar. I spend about like 2/3 of the time drinking and about 8 to 10 hours a day not drinking when I'm asleep. So that's kind of it's a good ratio for me.
Yeah, I think that's what the doctors actually prescribe.
Yeah,
They say as long as you get your good 8 and 10 hours of not drinking.
Yeah.
The other hours, hey, to your discretion.
dude, like 1920 style. I'd be like, oh, you got a bit of a stomach ache? We'll give you some whiskey and then some cocaine to bring it back up.
To this day, when like a girl's giving, women are giving birth in Ireland, they still hand them like a Guinness upon like birthing. Like it's one of those things because that they used to give beer and alcohol for like pain back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, like when you're giving birth, I guess it's like all the nutrients and stuff. It's already like gone its way. Like now we're cutting that shit off anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So like you're gonna probably want a double, but here you go.
That's funny as fuck. Yeah,
Like,
especially
dude.
if they're nowadays like people know they're not supposed to drink when they're pregnant.
Yeah.
They're probably like,
Well,
fuck, it's been
it's
9
almost-
long months.
It's almost going the other way where it's like not like obviously they still don't recommend like anything you can do to make the baby less fucked up is probably what they recommend. But at the same time, they do say that like there's some people who will have like a glass of something a day while pregnant, and then the baby's fine.
Yeah, I've
You know
heard
what I
that
mean?
about wine. I've heard that like a glass of like red wine or some shit.
Wine
a day
or
is,
beer,
like,
as long as you don't if like away from hard alcohol because it's just high percentage. But like
yeah, yeah.
like I mean, and low percentage beer and stuff. But it's like that amount of alcohol probably isn't like terribly damaging. But it's like if you could help it and you don't want your baby to be freaking retarded, then maybe you just don't even chance it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you like couldn't live without it, then like,
Yeah, if you're like getting the shakes while you're pregnant.
yeah, dude. I mean, it's probably better than being like a crack baby,
Yeah, and it's funny because like booze has been around a lot longer than crack. I mean, I'm sure there's something similar like cocoa leaves or whatever people have like consumed throughout the ages, but like
Yeah.
I think it's like relatively speaking to human history and like human existence, I think the majority of babies born, their parents were fucking drinking.
Oh, 100%. Especially if you were like poor and like didn't have doctors available. I'm sure like naturally they were like, this is gonna hurt. Here's a rag to bite on, soaked in fucking vodka. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, how else are you supposed to get through the pain? Like that's, and also like in England, like back in the 1400s when like they couldn't drink water, you had to drink beer instead of water because the water was so fucking filthy. Like that was probably like, you're as a pregnant woman, you're probably just drinking that beer because otherwise you're gonna get fucking parasitic water infections and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And they seem fine. I mean, they talk a little funny and have bad teeth, but like they seem to make it through.
I know that's all the like when England first started out, they had American sounding accents,
Yeah,
but then they just
they're all
fucking over
drunken.
time just turned retarded.
Yeah.
Like, right, man. I just got to do nothing. I'm gonna go out on Sussex line.
I think we figured something out here. This is good stuff.
Well, I love like the little things like when you're watching Peaky Blinders, because it's in like the 1920s and 1930s, like just random shit will happen. Like when John's wife is pregnant, she's like, "I'm still working. I'm 5 months gone." There's a fucking fat line of cocaine. It's like, because they didn't know it. It's not. She's not even doing anything like wrong in her mind. She's just like, I'm tired.
Well, it's like smoking cigarettes, dude.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
Women used to smoke up until the 50s. They were out there smoking cigarettes with a baby,
dude.
Like wild shit. I remember when I went to Paris and like I think I told you this story before, but like I was just like at a bakery and I saw this like family and this old lady just blow cigarette smoke in this infant's face, like in the stroller. And I'm like, man, that was the most Parisian thing I think I've ever witnessed in my entire life.
Yeah, they're probably not even thinking twice about it. They're probably like taking a drag of the cigarette, and then as they're driving, like, oh, what a cute baby. Oh,
yeah.
Look at him.
And by being 5 years old, they're smoking their own cigarettes and doing the same thing.
Yeah, and the baby's all fucking. Fucking getting a little buzz behind the eyes, you know.
Yeah. Like, life sucks. Get used to it.
All right, so you said you got a story for me or something happened today, or as far as your
fucking at work.
Yeah. What's up with that?
It's a wild, man. So like, so the whole mortgage industry shrunk by like 40%, and like they selected a few like people who have been with the company over 9 months, like a good amount of people, and they're trying to like break it up. So now they're switching my position to a commission only position. However, I'm still W-2 and get benefits. So the nice part is I can work whenever the fuck I want. They're like, the dialer will be on from 5 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night. You can log in at any point, take breaks, not work a day, work whenever you want. And then the commission is so much fatter than what I was previously getting.
What were you getting before?
So it was like a mixture of things, and like I won't go too much into it, just because I don't. If you do air this, I don't know if I'll get in trouble for signing like NDAs and stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
They don't like they don't like compensation plans going out there and stuff.
Gotcha.
But pretty much it was like, say for X amount of loans I did, like the first 5 were a certain amount of money, the second 5 were a little bit more, the third 5 were a little bit more than that, and the fourth 5 were more than that.
Gotcha, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and then you got what's called basis points, which is like a percentage of the loan amount if you outbounded. Now it's no tiering at all. I just get 100 basis points, or like 70 to 100 basis points. So like for reference, like if I did a $700,000 loan, which is the low end for any loan in Orange County, I get $7,000. And then and then the cap is at $7,000. So if I did
10% or 1%?
1%.
1%.
Yeah, so 100 basis points is like 1%.
Gotcha.
And then 70 basis points would be like, not 7%, but like, what is that? 0.007.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So like, the commission drastically changed. So like hypothetically, if I did like 2 $500,000 loans, I'd make like $10,000.
Nice.
And I get to work whenever I want. The only downside is I have no hourly wage to kind of rely on. But it's interesting. Like I was like really like shocked at first because I was like, what the fuck? It was a random meeting. My manager didn't know about it. Like no one knew what the fuck was happening. A couple of my buddies like were in the meeting with me that got chosen. Oh, sorry. And like it was one of those things where like my buddy was super fucking pissed because we also lost our health insurance. But they're offering some other health insurance or something. But like, because we aren't guaranteed a set amount, they don't take it out of, because normally like when you have insurance with your employer, they like take it out of your paycheck. But since we don't have like a guaranteed paycheck, they're just gonna bill us for the insurance that we have to pay if we want to keep the insurance. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. So theoretically, if you were in the situation where like, let's just say for discussion's sake, say you didn't do any sales in a month, you would get a bill still for like,
if I wanted to keep my insurance.
Yeah. Right. So if you made zero money off of your sales, you would still owe them for the health insurance.
If you, I mean, you could just say like, I'm not gonna pay it and have no insurance, but no, totally. So like a lot of people were like upset and felt like they felt like, oh, you're just trying not to fire us, or you're like trying to do this, but like it was also a lot of people were very, very stoked because they're like, oh, I can work way less, I have my own autonomy, work whenever I want, like hang out, like go to the gym when I want, just have like work-life balance. And if I can make this work, this is like the best job in the fucking world, you know what I mean? So it was like, I was like very like, kind of like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this, like this is weird, because I was like kind of thinking of, I was telling you, like I was looking for other jobs anyway. I was already having interviews. Like I was like on my way. I was like halfway out, and as it was,
Mhm.
and then that whole shift happened, and now I'm like, okay, I'll give this a month. Like I give this another month. They're keeping me for another month because if I can hypothetically like close a few deals and be able to work whenever I want, because like what if I close like 4 deals in the first week and then like 4 deals the second week? I could be like, I'm good with that money. I'm gonna take 2 weeks off.
Mhm.
So that part is like so attractive.
Do they have any kind of like contracts or like clauses with you where like you can only like if you're employed with them you can only work for them, or can you get like a side gig, like moonlight somewhere else?
You know, I had a similar question. They didn't really specify, and I don't think there's like a problem with that because we're not like, because we're W-2'd, but we have no hourly. So I don't see how they would know or care as long as like the loans that we were putting in, like the customers were happy, and like you kept your manager looped in, like, because I could hypothetically be like tell my manager like, hey, I'm only gonna work from like 5 to 8. I'm gonna take a 2 hour break, and then I'm gonna work like 1 to 3, and then I could like have a restaurant job or like have any sort of side gig. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And
I
like
don't.
if your manager comes in on Sunday and you're their server, they wouldn't be like, Grant, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'd be like, sorry, bro, loan's been tough this week. I don't know. That's a good question. We're literally the first trial at this company history. So we're like the guinea pigs of the situation.
Oh, of like the 100% commission thing?
Yeah. Well,
Was I not supposed to say that?
No, you're fine. They've done that before, but not in the capacity of like you can work whatever you want. So I think also another thing is like they were probably getting slammed by everyone saying this was like a sweatshop job because that's what kind of felt like. And I gotta say, man, like, cause I was telling you my frustrations about the tiering structure and stuff, and I was like, fuck it. Like when you're not when you're at a job that you're required to be there 12 hours a day, but you're not able to work because you're not getting any like leads, so you're not getting any phone calls. It's like just exhausting because you're like so bored. You're so fucking bored.
Yeah.
So like this in my mind seems like such a step up if I can make it work. But yeah, I was like, and then they're like, so pretty much what's happening too is I'm getting all my paid time off paid to me by the end of the month, and then I get my commission check, and then I have a few other loans that are gonna fund next month. So I got like a 2 month period where like I can kind of float and be all right to like try this out.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like if I don't like, it starts on Saturday. They're giving us tomorrow off, and then Saturday you can work if you want. That's when like the direct dialer is actually going to be like launched, and then Monday it's like whatever you want. You know, at that point, just whatever you want to work whenever. So if I can get something going like this week, and I see like some promise, like I'd be like, dude, this is like the best job in the world.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that's like so like I mean I never had like a real estate like mortgage job or anything like that, but I remember there was a brief period of time when we had like a guy that we went to high school with. He played baseball at Dana and then ended up playing. I think he was like a backup player or something. I don't know if he got any like actual like MLB play time, but like I think he played for like the Colorado Rockies or something like that, and a couple minor league teams too. Anyways,
Gotcha.
high level baseball player. He was opening up a training facility, and his like nephew or something like that or cousin wrestled. And I was coaching at the time, so that's how I got involved. They said they wanted to have like a wrestling program, and it was going to be like 100% commission based. So like anybody that I was personally responsible for signing up for the program and signing up for like blah blah blah, I would get like X amount, but there was no hourly, you know. So it was like
Also, like I'll say this about like jobs that are commission only. It's like because you either like love them or hate them, and usually it's like people who've done it before like can but it's like it's very weird because you definitely have to have like a mindset of being able to like keep yourself like because like there's some people out there that need someone to like hound them. Like there's people out there that need to be like watched over and make sure they're doing like work.
yeah.
Because like and they're not like worse workers or worse employees. They just need someone to guide them because they get distracted easily or whatever the case may be. Where it's like, because that's like the hardest part I think with people who do like commission only and like don't succeed. It's like they're like they'll start out strong for like 20 minutes, then they're like on their phone and like just fucking around, and then like you know what I mean. And it's like, and I imagine like I'm gonna fucking struggle with that too. You know, you gotta find like a certain balance. You gotta be like, okay, from this time to this time, I am like not focused on anything else but this, you know?
Yeah.
Because like it's tough, and it's weird because it's a good model in a business sense because it's like you do well, we pay you. You know, you make as much as you want. So that part's like super attractive, but like I also like was I'm very scared to see what this next month looks like. You know, I'm glad I got all my PTO paid out because I had pretty much all of that accruing throughout the year. So I got like probably like a whole month's worth of like just work that's gonna be paid out to me, so I can like chill. Like I have next month's rent and probably the months after that it's covered. You know,
Nice.
But it's like if I can't make it happen within that time. But what's attractive about this too is like other you know, there's a lot of companies out there where you have to like buy your own leads and like then they give you the same kind of compensation plan. But like with the company I'm at, they provide all the leads. You can get out additional leads. Like they were like saying, like if you want to network, go talk to realtors, like go put your name out there. They'll provide you all the marketing material, all that stuff. But they also give you, you know, a shit ton of their leads that they pay for, which is like thousands of dollars, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like I have a list of people I get to hit up every day. I also have a dialer of like live like transfers coming to me like throughout the day. So in that sense, it's like I think they said like we're gonna get like between 30 and 40 like leads, and it's like if I can grab 10 of those and then like close like one, that's perfect. If I can do that daily, that's ideal. If I can do that weekly, that will work. You know.
Yeah.
Even like depending on the loan amount, like semi-monthly is fine. You know. And then if I can network or whatever the fuck, but dude, I hope it works. Like, I don't know. Like, it's going to be really interesting to see because I've never worked a month where I didn't have any loans. So, in my mind, I'm like, oh, yeah, I should be able to get some loans. But it's also like we aren't getting certain perks that the other people who are staying on the leads get. But they have to close, they'd have to close like 20 deals to like get the same amount of money that I'd make with 6 deals. So that part's attractive because like way less work.
Yeah.
Way more money.
Yeah, it's just a matter of being that. Can you be a self-motivator? You know?
I know,
which I think you can. I mean, I know you pretty well. You seem like someone who can self-motivate pretty well. I'm kind of like the opposite almost, where like I'm not good at starting things. I don't like unless somebody like is like, hey, what the fuck, you need to be here. Or, hey, can you do this for me? Or like, hey, can you do X, Y, and Z? Like, I won't get started, but as soon as I get started doing something and get some momentum, then it's like, okay, I can keep this going, you know? But it's like, if I have the option just fucking...
To fuck off?
Yeah, just to fuck off and lay in the sun all day, dude.
Yeah.
Well, lay inside all day. I'll do that.
Yeah. And yeah, dude, then that's like something that I like when I was working from 7 to like 6, so much of my hours are dedicated to that place where it's like when I got home I felt like there was very little time for myself, and then also like I was just so tired. So it's like all I did was like got home, like had dinner, watched TV.
Well, 7 to 6 is 7 the time that you have to be at the office?
Yeah, so I would wake up at 5. Sometimes I'd work out, sometimes I wouldn't. And then I'd leave at 6:30, get to the office at like 6:50. And then my set schedule is 7 to 5, but like sometimes calls like go long, or sometimes like I feel like if I make an appointment with someone, I'll stay later because I'm like, it could be a deal, you know, if I feel confident about it. So it's like it was 7 to 5 to 7 to 6, depending. And then today, like yesterday, my manager was like, because I wasn't getting any leads, he's like, hey, maybe you should try coming in 6 to 4. And I was like, fuck, bro. Like, so waking up at like 4:30. Like, I don't know, man. And then,
that's gnarly. Well, because if you're waking up at 5, let's do that. I mean, you're supposed to, like, doctors say you're supposed to get minimum 7 hours of sleep. So if you're waking up at 5, that means you have to be asleep by 10. Are you leaving the office at 6? Or are you getting home at 6?
I would say, well, it depends. I would say the average is I would leave at 5:30, get home at 6. But there were times, like, there's a lot of times I would slip out at 5 and get home at 5:30 or whatever.
Okay.
But then there's times I stay till 6 and get home at 6:30.
Yeah.
And then there's even like outliers where I'm there till like 7, you know? So it's like,
well, and this schedule was what? You said this was 5 days a week, sometimes 6?
yeah, it was 5 days a week, and then there was one mandatory Saturday that was like the first of every month. Or when I started, there was actually one mandatory Saturday and one mandatory Sunday. And then after I got past like 6 months or something like that, they took away the Sunday. So you had to do it with Saturday. But then they also heavily encouraged that you work additional Saturdays. Like,
Jesus.
Yeah, so now it's almost like shocking that they flipped the script and they're like, listen, there's gonna be some of like obviously the thing is they don't have enough leads to offer everybody, so they're like, here's a compromise for people who aren't getting leads. This is what we're going to do for you. We're going to give you this like compensation plan that can kind of make up for your lack of quantity, and we're going to continue to feed the really good people that are really good at taking like warm leads, you know. But in a way they're kind of like, because I feel like they've I feel like they feel that they've invested so much time. Like, all my licenses cost like thousands of dollars, and they like, paid for all that stuff.
Yeah.
Now, another downside is in this role, I'm going to be responsible for the financial aspect of renewing my licenses.
Oh,
But
okay.
also, they said they're going to give you like a whole layout of how much that is, so you can like set aside money.
Gotcha.
But I mean, if that, I just can't stop thinking like, if this works out, like, this is a dream job, and I can also focus on like things that I actually want to progress in my life.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
with this setup, because the setup you had before, I'm sure you're probably making good money, but fuck, man, 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just doing the math here. If you're waking up at 5, that means you have to be going to bed by 10. You're getting home around 6. You've got a 4-hour window, 5 to 6 days a week. I mean,
Yeah.
fuck, man. Between working out, doing the grocery shopping, making dinner, cleaning up dinner, fucking cleaning the house, like that's
Well,
that's
Allie
a
was
grind,
definitely
man.
responsible for a lot. I mean, I gotta give it
Yeah,
to her.
that
Like,
helps.
she was working part time, like very part time. Like, she would work from like, I think like 6 to like 1, like 3 days a week or whatever. So I was responsible for a lot of the financials, but like she kept everything going. Like, a lot of times she'd pack me like meals. She'd do the grocery shopping. She'd take
That's
care of the
huge.
dog.
That's
It was huge, especially in that like getting off the ground in that like new career for me, because I was like, I just don't have enough time to like have any sort of anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, working out was like, I remember I lost a bunch of weight originally because I would just not eat and then work all the time, and then I started getting more comfortable in my role, because I feel like before I had like anxiety about like being on the phone, being with my manager, all this stuff, and I like just wouldn't eat.
Yeah.
And then I started getting a little more comfortable. I'm like, oh, this is fun. Everyone's good. Like, just, you ease into it. Then I started eating and not working out, and then just having desk body. And then I
like
started
a melted ice cream cone.
yeah, and then I started working out again and going to the office. But the problem with that is like literally by like 9:30, me and Allie would watch like Disney Plus shows that would come out on Wednesday, and I just like couldn't even keep my eyes open. I'm like, I'm like so dead tired.
Yeah.
And she gets so mad. She's like, wake the fuck up. And dude, Allie has been telling me to quit for I think 6 months now.
That's funny.
Like, she hates it. So she's like, get a 9-to-5 job, get a salary job, get one that makes you happy, like, get what, all this stuff. And I'm like, yes, I feel it. I might do it. I don't know. Like, it's one of those things where, like, especially in sales, that I never knew, because I was never in this kind of sales. You get like a nice commission check, and it's like kind of like cash tips when you're a waiter. It's hard to leave that like that high you get when you're like, when you see like a big deposit in your bank account, you're like,
Yeah.
you get like a warm fuzzy feeling. You're like, I guess this was all worth it,
Yeah, totally.
So that's why I'm hoping that like this new kind of thing will be like, okay, you get that fuzzy feeling, but you can have a life and you don't have to work that hard.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that ends up being reality. But
yeah, that reward thing is interesting. How it can become addicting. Like, I mean, you're dealing in what, like 4-figure deposits at a time. You're getting like 4 figures at a time being like deposits as a result of like a deal that you close.
Deals, but yeah.
Well, I just, because I've never been in this situation, but I imagine what it must be like to be somebody like Elon Musk or like Jeff Bezos and like open up your bank account and you've got how many figures is a billion? How many figures is multiple billions? That's
a lot, like
9, 10,
Yeah.
10 like, and then when you have something go through where you have like multiple millions or multiple billions of dollars going back and forth, like,
It must be insane.
like, it's kind of like the opposite of like losing at Monopoly. Like, once you're out of money, you don't get to play anymore. So you're just like, nah, I'm just, whatever. I'm just gonna sit here,
Yeah,
But like that high, like you said, that high that you get of like getting that big reward is like, oh my god, I was just getting tired, but fuck, now I want to get back on the computer and do another deal, another trade.
It's crazy because it's like the same kind of thing as like when you go to a slot machine, you keep on putting that quarter in, that dollar in, and then you see the numbers, and then you get that one where it just keeps on going up, and you're like, you get like puppy-eyed, you're like, oh my god, look at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then he keeps on going, and you're like, and then you just bet it all and losing.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like the same kind of dopamine hit that you're like, fuck, man. But the thing, I feel like I think that's what's different between like maybe me or like some of our other friends. It's like I want money, but it's all like a means to an end. Like I'm never like I really don't care about having a ton of money. And I think I've expressed this to you like multiple times. Like for me, it's like I just want freedom. That's it. I just want like autonomy of my time, and I want to be able to like not have to worry about things. That's it.
Yeah.
And like Ali has expressed that this is like some fucking Taurus trait or whatever, like stability or science, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just want to be like, I just don't want to worry. I don't want stress. I want it to be like, because I feel like once you make a certain amount of money, it's just simple, man. Like everything's simple. Your time is like what I feel like after you have like $100 grand in your bank account, just as reserves, it's like life is simple. Nothing matters anymore. If anything happened, you have financial means to make it go away, or like not go away. That sounds like you're murdering someone. But like I'm saying, like your car breaks down,
hey,
blows
man, you gotta
up.
do what you gotta do.
You buy a new car, But like that's the kind of thing like I would hate to like live paycheck to paycheck, and I feel like I've been there with Ali where it's like when I was first starting, and like even some months where it's sales, you have bad months too, and it's like, fuck, my entire commission check just went to rent. I closed like 2 deals.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck, this sucks ass, So it's like that's like the worst feeling. I feel like I hate that feeling.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, me and Tiffany have been gradually accumulating credit card debt ever since unemployment ran out.
Yeah.
We used to be, before the pandemic, when we were both working. I was working a lot at Salt Creek, which was decent, made decent money there.
Yeah.
We were like getting by. Like sometimes we put money in the savings, sometimes we'd have to take it out. And then the pandemic happened, and we were not going out a lot, not spending money, obviously. And then we were getting all this unemployment money, and she was still working. So we were like fucking just stacking money. That was, like, you probably remember, I went all out on Christmas. I got everyone all crazy fucking Christmas gifts and shit. Because the way I looked at it is like, I didn't earn this money. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
totally.
I could have, not that there's anything wrong with doing this. Like I could have easily been like, oh my God, I'm getting all this free money. I'm going to put it in my savings and save it. But I've looked at it like, this isn't my money. I didn't earn it. Like I'm just going to keep putting it back into the system and spend it. Pay vendors for the gifts. They get the money.
Honestly,
I give the gifts to my friends.
You did exactly what the government wanted. It's a stimulus. They wanted to stimulate the economy. So it's like it's like that fucking shit Alex always says, where it's like nothing more American than buying something at the store. And it's
well, what can I say, dude? I'm fucking American at heart. I'm fucking born and bred, USA, baby. But yeah, it was weird. Like it's weird at this point. Like we go in and out, because right now I've been picking up shifts at the coach house. Like we'll have months where like the credit card debt is just going up the whole time, and then I'll cover a bunch of shifts for like a week or two straight, and it's like, oh, we paid all that off, and then there's a dry spell, and then it keeps going up, and it's like, we got someone here. Daddy Dorp's in the house. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back. We'll just leave it rolling, but let's get settled here.
Ooh, David. Oh, they're warm? Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck?
If you want, we can switch
Might as well piss in my mouth. Just kidding, David. I love you.
Bet? No,
Bet?
you promise?
He's got the shirt and everything.
What's up?
What up, Daddy Dorp?
You too, brother. Thank you so much for helping me move, dude.
Warm embrace.
Oh, yeah.
I thought moving from like one apartment to another apartment in the same complex was gonna be like the easiest shit ever. And then I realized like, oh, we have so much goddamn stuff. Like,
Oh yeah.
It was so stupid, dude.
And an upstairs unit, no less. Like
I know that. And then Allie was all pregnant and not like helping. I mean, she was helping, but like girl helping, where they like don't lift heavy stuff. So it's like
they
me,
take
you,
some of the stuff out
and then-
slowly.
Yeah, and then Haley's a military dude, like helping us out. Like God bless his heart, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Different Haley,
Yeah, different Haley.
not
Idaho
she,
Haley.
She didn't ditch Wyland.
No, unfortunately not, dude.
I thought you liked Wyland.
I love Wyland. I want them to break up so I can hang out with him more.
That's how I feel about you and Allie.
Low key
Oh
thing.
my god, dude.
Oh,
Well,
man.
now I have to pay child support, so that's not happening.
At least we'd hang out more.
You'll cover the difference.
All right, here,
Damn.
since Daddy Dorp just got here, we'll get him caught up. I poured this for you.
Oh. Appreciate
I mean,
it.
Cruz, if you want, I'll take a second.
You want another? Yeah.
Ooh.
Let's
Or
go
a
for it.
beer,
We're
or
getting some
whatever
more
you wanna
whiskey
do.
coming your way. Daddy Dorp, do you mind switching seats and
Yeah,
taking
let's
care
go.
of this shit? Because you know how much I hate it.
Should I do whiskey or beer? What's more responsible?
Both.
Whiskey is lower calorie.
Liquor before beer, you're in the clear. That's how it is, right? Or am I? Is it backwards? Beer before liquor, you're in the no.
Yeah. Liquor before beer, you're in the clear. Beer before liquor.
Okay,
you
I'll
only
take
get
one
second.
more, but make it like a quarter or a quarter of that. Or not a quarter, like
A quarter less.
Sorry, 75%.
Yeah, 3/4 of it.
3/4. 3/4 that, please.
Coming your way.
I'm assuming that's Crown.
Off-brand Crown, yeah. Dude, fucking.
Damn, times are tough, huh?
Dude, they are, but dude, the thing is, Crown Royale at Costco is $40 a bottle. $40.
Yeah.
The fucking Kirkland Canadian whiskey is $20. It's literally 50% of the price. I can't believe
drinking
I spent
Canadian whiskey.
That's Crown Royale is, bro.
That's American House.
I guess you've already.
Wait,
got
Crown
those.
Royale is Canadian?
Yeah,
Oh, wild.
yeah, that's why it's so good.
Damn, I didn't know those Canucks could do that.
Got those
you know?
bits of maple in them.
Do
Dude.
you want me to throw these in the fridge?
Sure, yeah. They're full.
Cruz, on the day before my wedding, you had that whiskey that Nick got, the Noah's Mill. Do you remember that?
When did we have that?
The night before the wedding.
When we went out?
Before, like, he bought a bottle, and we had some before we went out.
Oh, at the cabin.
Yeah, that cabin was sick as fuck.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, that shit is like the bombest, because like I had it, he gave me the bottle, so I had it after the wedding too, and I had it for like a few weeks. That shit is so good, and it's like it's expensive, like it's like $50 or $60, but it's like 49.9% alcohol. It's so good. That's my new favorite.
Damn, that's fucking up there. No,
That's
I don't even
pretty up
remember
there.
that.
I
Dude,
don't
honestly,
either, dude.
man, like I'm sure it's probably the same for you, but your whole
myself.
wedding fucking experience is such a blur.
Yeah, Ali was so bad. I was so hungover at my wedding.
Yo.
I was like
Good.
so hungover at my wedding. Anyway,
At least you got some sleep.
you didn't sleep?
I got zero. Well, for my wedding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, me and Tiffany. I think she slept for 1 hour, and I stayed up the whole night, just kind of like going through it in my head, just like okay, like
Your wedding was so fun.
It was.
yours was fun as fuck too.
I know. I just wish it was longer.
I heard David's was fun. I wasn't invited.
You were, but Allie was very much like family only and
Dude,
everything
that's
else.
it sucks that like, because like imagine if we had the COVID mentality now. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
Exactly, yeah.
Like how we feel
I-
about COVID now.
Let me just say,
back
I fucking did.
then.
my mentality right now is exactly the same as it was in 2018. It's been the same. I did nothing different. And I was like, why is everyone freaking out? Everyone's like, oh, because the fucking air. The air is dangerous. The air will kill you. My fucking obese grandma died because of COVID.
Yeah.
She was 99. It was COVID. Nah, maybe it's just me.
No, that was COVID. The government wouldn't.
I know. I feel bad. I think I would have had a lot of. I'm not saying I didn't have fun, but I'd have so much more fun if Cruz was there at your wedding.
I know, exactly.
Because we had fun. I would like, but I would have gotten shit faced if Cruz was there.
That's true. That's true. And Allie would have been
Cruz, I don't know
pissed.
if you know this, but I just can't not get not shit faced with you. It's insane. It's like you're my fucking. It's not even. You don't even pressure me at all. It's just when I see you, I feel like I just need to be shit faced.
You saying how fucking ugly I am? It's like,
No,
oh man.
it's not even that. I don't know what it is. I just revert to back when we were like 17, sneaking like 30 beers into your mom's house, and I'm drinking all of them. And
Gotta
like,
make them count.
I don't know what it is, dude. It's one of those weird things where I'm like, I don't know if this will ever fucking fade, where I can just not be fucking shit faced.
I hope not.
It's weird. Yeah, but it's weird because you're the only friend that it's like that.
That's
like
funny.
Austin, Daniel. I mean, like I'll have some drinks, but like with you, I'm like, I don't stop and I can't.
Just one more. Just one more, baby.
I can't. But it's so weird because it's not like you're pressuring me. It's like almost like I feel like an involuntary thing that like God is taking over my body.
Yeah, speaking of which, no, I don't like to pressure people, but speaking of which, let's do a shot. Cheers, gentlemen.
That ain't me.
That ain't me.
Oh God.
There was something we were talking about right before David got here I wanted to bring up.
We were talking about finances.
Oh, okay, yeah, you mentioned... Okay, so every time... If you guys... Here's like what goes on in my brain whenever you're talking about like real estate and stuff to me. There's this line in The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. It's a movie I like.
I'll pull it up.
where like he's talking to like some financier about like getting finances for his movie and stuff. He's like, so what's the deal? Is he going to give us the money or not? He's like, you get it, Steve. Like he needs to make a projection of the gross expenses and like the profits that you'll make so he can take it back to his investors and see if he'll be able to get a tax break. He's like, I don't understand, but I can tell it's bullshit. That's how I feel when you describe real estate to me. You're like, you get it? I'm like, I don't understand, but I can tell this is bullshit.
That's how I feel
Who
too.
made this up?
Yeah,
It's one of those hilarious when I'm selling people and stuff. It's like stuff that like I'm not saying that I ever lead people wrong, but also your job's in sales, so you're leading people wrong, you know? So it's like it's one of those things where it's so funny because I'm like,
You're legally.
they're like, I want to wait until the interest rate goes down,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, listen, sir, this is just the start of a very dreary picture where interest rates are going to go into the 8, 9, 10%. Your children may not even know what a 6% interest rate is. Now is the time to take advantage. You're going to be looking back in 3 years, thanking me and kissing my feet that you got a 6% interest rate. And it's like, I know your neighbor got a 2% 2 years ago, but that was COVID. Different time.
And he's white.
Yeah. Take that into account. Also,
James.
he made more money and didn't have $300,000 in debt.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're treating you different. That's because you're bad at paying bills. So I want you to understand this is gonna save your fucking life. But it's funny because it's like, dude, you're like, okay, I don't think interest rates are gonna go down, but like also we could go in World War III with Russia and then interest rates go down. I'm not a fucking fortune teller here. So like it's the same thing where I'm like, you can write off discount points on taxes, which is like buying down the interest rate. And it's like I have to legally say I'm not a tax expert. However, bro, you can write this shit off. Let's go. It's so funny, dude. Like sales is so funny because I feel like it's so like scummy, but at the same time you're like trying to help people, but at the same time they think you're a fucking scumbag trying to just get money. So it's like one of those,
that's capitalism for you.
Yeah, it's one of
it's
those,
the most honest system we got.
Isn't that sad?
Hey, it's better than fucking anything else we come up
I know,
with. So, hey,
I know, dude, and it's especially weird in my industry, insurance, any finance sector at all, because I'm not selling a product. I'm literally selling money. That's all I'm selling. Like it's so weird.
Okay, so I got a lot of questions for you. Because here's the thing: is that like every time we talk, we hang out, like you just mentioned, we get shit faced. So I'm very engaged the whole time. Like, oh my god, very compelling, very interesting. But we don't record it, so I lose it, and I end up asking the same questions. Like, so what do you do again? But so you mentioned at the beginning here that like you said that the mortgage business just like shrunk 40%.
Yeah.
How does that work? What does that even mean?
So because, okay, a few reasons. One is, so there's two sectors of like mortgages, more or less. Like you purchase a house and you refinance a house. Have you ever like refinanced a car loan? Have you ever had a car loan? You've never had loans.
No.
So here's.
You're lucky, man.
All right.
I avoid them like the plague. And Jews.
Say you get a car, and this is gonna be good knowledge.
That's how I stay out of debt. I avoid the Jews.
Exactly. Unless they're your tax attorney, then you love them and kiss their feet. But say you buy a car, and your credit's not very good at that point, and you're like, I just really need this car. You buy a car, you get a loan, and they're like, all right, based on your qualifications, and because we're scumbags and we know that like you're not gonna shop around, you're at the car lot, like you need this car to get home, we're gonna give you a 12% interest rate. And you're like, okay, well I guess this is what I gotta do. And then like literally the next day, you can do this great thing called refinancing, where you go to your fucking local bank and you tell them, I want to refinance my car loan. And they're like, great, here, give me like, what's your income? Like how, they look at all the documentation. Same info. But because you didn't do it with the car loan. And then what happens is that bank pays off that car loan. So say the car loan was for $20,000. The bank's going to pay that $20,000. Now you owe the bank $20,000. But the bank is going to give you a 2% interest rate. So now you're saving. Now your car payment went from $600 to $200. You're stoked. The bank is stoked because now they're making interest off you, and then the car loan is stoked because they just got their money right away.
Paid, yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the refinance sector of mortgages. It's like someone buys their home. Refinancing though is a little bit different in this regard because there's two different categories of refinancing. Because like say you buy your home and 5 years go by, and as we all know in California, the home you bought 5 years ago was like $400,000 5 years ago. Now it's like $700,000.
Yeah.
So the reason real estate is so powerful is you can take money out of that home without selling it. So you can take equity. Equity is the difference between what you bought it for and what it's worth now. And you can take a loan out against the equity of your home, which is tax-free. And so, like, for instance, say you wanted to do a remodel in your home. You're like, I need $75,000. I bought the home. It was $400,000. Now it's $700,000. I'm going to borrow against my home. I'm going to take out $75,000. And instead of doing a personal loan, which is going to be like a fucking 12, 13, 14% interest rate that you have to pay back in like 10 years, you're just going to tack that on to your loan amount. So if you owed like $350,000, now you owe fucking $425,000, and then the payment's going to be, instead the payment would increase $100 instead of you having a separate payment for $1,000.
Right.
So
so this is how dumb I am. I get confused where like what causes my home to be worth $300,000 more over the course of a few years in California. Like, what is that? Just inflation? Is
Smart
that
white people?
Yeah, is it fuckery? Like, what is it?
It's a lot. I mean, it's the market. Honestly, it's like there's a few things. Like one, for instance, say you buy a home and you fix it up, you put $40,000 in the home. Now the home in your mind should be worth $40,000 more because you added a kitchen, added an extra room, you did something, landscaped, it looks nicer, whatever the case may be. Then there's also just the supply and demand aspect of it, where a lot of people want to live in California. So therefore, we're gonna up the prices because we can, because a lot of people want to live here.
Let's see what they'll pay.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
That's where I get confused. Who is deciding to up the prices?
The people who want to live here.
Oh, so it's the demand that is making...
there's so many people who want to live here, look for opportunity. It's such a hub for employment.
But there's a step that's being missed there that like I feel like is like so say, I know this is oversimplification,
like
but
who
say
decides the value?
Yeah, like all the candy I have got 100 candy bars at my store and they're $5 each. But then 200 people, I hear that there's a line of 200 people outside, so it's like, okay, now I'm going to increase the prices before I let them in.
I'm going to give you a really good analogy that should clear things up. You go to Disneyland. Disneyland 2 years ago, parking was $15. Today, Disneyland's parking is $40.
What?
And the reason
2 years ago was 15?
Yes, 2 years ago. And the reason is they understand that there's always going to be a lot of demand to go to Disneyland. So in order to keep out, or at least in order to keep the park at capacity, since they only have so much land that they can actually use, they up the prices of everything because they know that there's going to be a certain amount of people that aren't going to be willing to pay that amount, and they need to keep the park at a certain limit for people to actually have a good time. Because if they start letting in, 200,000 more people than they're supposed to, everyone's gonna be miserable. Disneyland's gonna plummet, and no one's gonna want to go to Disneyland. However, if you make it, and you give them payment plans, you do this and that, like you can get different passes, give you different discounts on parking. If you live in the state, you get a discount in Disneyland, stuff like that. But the circumstance still stands, and it's just like the housing market, where it's like, we know that people want this. Everyone wants a home. That's not going to go away ever. It's going to go like this. Like if Disneyland loses interest, they'll lower their prices, let more people in. But the fact of it right now is they've done such a good job at kind of bringing people in, building an entire culture around it. They don't anticipate doing that. They're just going to continue to raise prices, and then eventually it's going to be very hard for people who can't afford it, but there's always going to be a demand for it. And if there isn't, then they'll just lower the prices. You know what I mean?
Well, I like this analogy especially because it makes me think of fucking California. Disneyland in this analogy is California, where only the thing is that they let too many people come in, but they also raise the prices like they weren't letting people in.
Yeah, precise, dude, exactly. And it sucks, but it's also the weird part about real estate that Disneyland, the analogy doesn't work with Disneyland is, one solution is building more, which no one's done since 2008 because everyone's so scared. You know what I mean? Like the whole building stagnation kind of thing is kind of fucked a lot of people over, because it's like there's more people than ever who want to buy homes, but then there's less homes than ever that are to be sold. And then on top of that, you have like corporations buying homes, like we were mentioning earlier,
in Texas, right? Or just everywhere?
Everywhere, just to sell or rent out or whatever the case may be. So it's like it just makes it a very difficult situation for people who are renting, but it also makes it hard for people who are buying, because in my industry, most of the time, like people are just getting outbid with cash offers. Because what happens, for instance, you sell your home in California for $1 million, move to Idaho where the houses are $400,000, you buy a home in cash, and people are like, well, I'm qualified to get a loan for $400,000. It's just gonna like take 30 days, and then like the person who's selling the home is like, no, the cash guy offered $15,000 more, and I'll get it right now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know
The
what I mean?
whole goddamn amount.
The whole goddamn amount
Yeah.
plus some, and then the guy with the cash is all stoked because he's like, oh, I still got $600,000 for my $1 million home, and I have a sick ass house in Idaho with
Fucking bigger
12
house.
acres.
Yeah.
Getting riding away from them Dems, and then
See, this is where it gets very confusing for me, because I feel like at some point there's a limit. At some point,
There is.
like it can't like.
And that's what the interest rate does. The interest rate is parking at Disneyland. They're going to raise the interest rate, which is what we're going through right now, which is in return going to lower housing prices. And so what we're about to see, because the Fed is combating inflation with rising interest rates. Before last year, I was giving people 2.5% interest rates. Now I'm selling 6% interest rates. That's a 4% difference in just a matter of like a year.
And that's dealing with like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and what the market they can't just keep on increasing the value of homes, because no one's going to be able to afford a $2 million home with a 6% interest rate.
Besides big corporations.
Besides big corporations, which is a problem, but the market's still going to adjust accordingly. We should see probably about a 20% dip in the real estate. So everything around here that's $1 million is going to start going for $800,000, and then the interest rate's going to, it kind of balances out because the payment's going to be around the same, which is why like people are like, buy the dip in real estate makes it doesn't make a whole ton of sense unless you're like buying in an area where if you're buying in a developing area, it makes more sense. But buying around here, it's like, yeah, so I can either take an $800,000 home at a 6% interest rate or $1 million home at a 2% interest rate, and it kind of like it's not a huge discrepancy. You know what I mean? Unless
like long term, right?
Long term, yeah, or even like short term, like the payment's going to be very similar because like you're paying like it's the interest rate percentage is based off the loan amount. So it's like if you have $1 million at 2%, the payment's going to be very similar to $800,000 at 6% because it's a $200,000 difference. You know what I mean? So I think that's like, at least in California, we're going to see housing prices drastically drop if the interest rates continue to rise, because that's just how it works, and that's how it always has worked.
And what's your predicted like time scale on that? Like when are these housing prices supposed to drop?
Dude, they have to like soon. I mean, like otherwise it's like no one's like they probably will in like a year or 2 years. We're probably gonna see some like once they mark it as like a recession, that's when you're gonna start seeing shit just drop, which is like where we're headed anyway, unless we go into war, which might be a thing. Because war makes interest rates go lower. But I don't know, dude. It's kind of crazy because I'm not sure what's actually going to happen, because there's obviously a bubble, and it's not necessarily in the real, like, the housing market is definitely overvalued, but the difference between now and 2008 is it isn't the mortgage industry's fault, because now we have all these rules and regulations where we can't do stuff. So
that was because of 2008, right?
Right, exactly. Like 2008 changed. Like before 2008, you could get a loan off like stated income. You could be like, "Oh, I make $100,000 a year." It's like bullshit. You make $50,000 a year, but they're not gonna check. Now, I have to get pay stubs. I have to get W-2s. I have to have a record that you make this much in order to do the loan.
Yeah, that's what you were saying before. I don't know if we were on air. We were recording. We were talking. You were saying that you had some girl that like you had to like reject her loan or whatever because she was like making money in tips and it wasn't enough for something like that. Yeah,
career change too. And what's fucked up? This girl, owns a nice home in Las Vegas. Guess how old she is?
21.
How old are you if you were born in 1999?
Fuck.
That's like 21, 22.
Yeah, 22. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
My case is this girl owns a 200, 300. I think she bought the home for like $250,000 on a fucking event planner. She was an event planner for 3 years, whatever that means. It was still cocktailing waitress kind of shit, but
she was sucking someone's dick. But
maybe. totally, because now she's a
She planned the
cocktail.
parties.
Now she's a cocktail waitress at Dre's nightclub or whatever. But it's like
She was definitely sucking someone's dick.
that's like
A lot of
the
people's dick.
that's the difference between Nevada and California. Like, there's just like
Prostitution's legal.
exactly,
Sorry.
exactly, dude. But it's like you can't do that here. Like, you couldn't work like, and that's the difference when I refinance people in Mississippi. Their mortgage is $500. They work at Walmart. They make $1,500. They're able to afford a house, and like they're not well off by any means. They're probably still struggling.
Little Mississippi house though.
Yeah, but
On the bayou.
and that's the thing that I think a lot what we're seeing that's kind of disrupting the market too is there's all these remote jobs. People are realizing like, oh, we don't have to live in California. We'll move to somewhere that and more remote. They go to Montana, Idaho, Arizona, New Mexico, Tennessee, like all these really booming states right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have their California money in those states, and it's upping the property taxes, upping the home values. So some people are stoked, some people aren't that lived here there for generations or whatever,
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's like it's interesting because like so much of the cause is like corporations buying up a bunch of land and buying up a bunch of property. It's people being able to work remote and move wherever they want.
Mhm.
It's people wanting to. It's Airbnb. It's people wanting to buy rental properties. It's people who. It's just like a plethora of things that they're like. There's no amount of regulation you could put in place that would solve this problem. The only solution I would see is you have to build a shit ton more, and that's like I feel like what's probably gonna have to happen. Like in California, it's like where like Ladera is and stuff like that. It's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
have to keep on going, keep on going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
Fucking
funny.
desert out there.
Yeah.
What's so funny about how these things work and how like shit like grows like that over time is that like how you said like we look at Ladera now like from our age like I know Ladera is going out to how far it does.
Yeah.
I remember we were driving through there one time when I was working at Farrell's and I was with my manager and he was telling me we were driving through like this like developed area where there's like shopping plazas and multiple neighborhoods and shit. He's like we were in the middle of it. We're like in the middle of the fucking the city that is Ladera Ranch or whatever. And he's like, hey, you see this neighborhood right here? Yeah. Like my dad bought a house here one time because he loves nature. He loves outdoors. Like when he bought his house in this neighborhood, his backyard was just wilderness and he could walk into his backyard and just go into the wilderness for miles. Now, what's back there is more neighborhoods and more concrete and more like. So it's funny. Like you buy this home in 1970 or 80 or whatever. It's like cool. Like I just bought my dream home, and it's gonna now I can. What the selling point on this house was the fact that I could walk into my backyard and I'm in the wilderness. A couple decades later, you're in the dead center of like developed metropolitan area, and it's like.
Dude, that happened to my grandparents with Coda de Caza.
And Sammamish.
Yeah, and Sammamish. Where
Crazy.
it's like, I mean, coincidentally, and that's why they're so funny, because like any risk I take, they're so like against. They're like so risk adverse. However, it's like...
But what did they do at like 18?
I know. At 18, they moved across the country, and they bought...
On like a teacher's salary.
Yeah, they told me...
That's the thing. You could take risks when they were 18.
Yeah.
You could get fired at fucking 5 p.m. and have a new job by 7 p.m. on your fucking walk home.
Dude, you really... Well, yeah, and also you didn't have any other option to compare to. Like, it's like... I was talking to my grandma today. It's like, yeah, I mean, Grandpa had two options. He's going to be a teacher or a carpenter. And then he ended up being both. And it's like, It's funny because she says this story where like they almost bought a home outside Detroit that was like $90,000 and would have probably been worth $90,000 50 years later.
Yeah.
Instead, they moved to California, built a home for like $100,000, and now it's probably well into like $1 million home.
Because it's in Kodo, and that's like
right off
like
pure
Ladera,
luck.
it was like nothing back
Well,
then.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I was talking to my parents about that. It's like there's not really that for us in California anymore.
Mhm.
If we want that same experience of like having such appreciation, like my parents bought the house for $250,000. They just got appraised for $1.4 million. If we want that same appreciation over 30 years, we're gonna have to move to like Colorado, to like Tennessee. We're gonna have to go to a state like states where people are like willing to lose the beach in order.
Yeah,
to
you
have a
said like
better
Mississippi,
life.
the guy who's paying fucking $500 for his mortgage.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings me back to the whole like shrinking of the 40% shrinkage of like the mortgage system or whatever. Like, so that's the
sorry.
reason
Yeah,
that
I got off track there.
No, it's okay. It was
the
interesting.
reason is so many people got low interest rates this last year like 2%, 2.5%, 2%. Where the let me explain too. So the cash out refinance sector is like you're getting cash out of your home to use for whatever you want. You can just take cash out of your home, and you refinance. You can also refinance what's called a rate and term, and that means you're either reducing the term of the loan. So if you're on a 30-year loan, maybe you want to go to a 20, 19, 15-year loan, like pay it off quicker, or maybe you want to do just an interest rate reduction where you're like, I'm paying 7% because I bought it in 10 years ago when that's what the interest rates were. Now the interest rates are 2%. Well, I refinance and get 2%. So they do that. But the problem is, this is like a cash out market where the only refinance I can do, like 90% right now, is cash out because I'm not going to talk to somebody that has a higher interest rate than what I have to offer right now. So the bulk of the business is people who are in like credit card debt, people who have a lot of liabilities, people who want home improvements, people who need money to pay off taxes, people who just need money. So it's like my primary job right now is I'm going to give you a cash out refinance. I'm going to take some of the equity out of your home, give it to you, and then you're going to, a lot of it's debt consolidation because like these credit cards are 24% interest rates. We're going to consolidate everything. 6% sounds real good now. You know what I mean? Like when your payment's $300 a month and you've been paying this credit card for 3 years and it hasn't gone down one fucking nickel over the past 3 years, then they're like, dude, I'm over it. Use my equity, pay it all off. So we'll pay it all off. Now your payment only goes up $100 and you save like, $800 a month. Which in return, if you paid that back on your mortgage, you'd be debt free in like 5 years. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's like a lot of like better options, and that's the thing that's hard to deal with people who don't know the business. It's like it's not called a remortgage; it's called a refinance. You know what I mean? So it's like we look at your finances as a whole, which is why we pull your credit report. We look at like, hey man, I noticed you have 9 fucking credit cards that have been the same balance since fucking 2020. What's your plan for that? Are you gonna inherit money? Like, right. And it's like, I'm not talking like, okay, you got 5,000, 4,000. I talk to people that have like literally $100,000 in credit cards, 10,000 on each. They have 9 credit cards. And I'm like, what is your plan? You are like one hip surgery, a fall away from bankruptcy. Yeah. Like, what are you going to do? You have your house that appraised, $200,000 in value. Like, let's use that money and just fucking reallocate it so you're not so fucking miserable. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's like those are the type of loans that people are getting now. They're not getting they're not like the savvy people that are like, oh, I'll give you instead of a 6% or a 5%, here's a 2%. Those people are gone. They got all their 2%. Mm-hmm. Now it's like, here, we're back up to like the 6%, but
you were a bit late to the game.
You're late to the game. So it's like
you're trying.
People come to me and they're like, it's like almost like, that car salesman shit where they're like, they wanted a blue car, but they left with a red one. Yeah. It's the same kind of shit where people talk to me all the time. They're like, I just want a lower monthly payment. And like in my mind, I'm like, oh, so you just want to save money. Yeah. In their mind, they're like, no, I want you to reduce my interest rate. And I'm like, well, that's not going to fucking happen in this market. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you I can do whatever I can for you. I'm going to pull your credit. I'm going to see that you have $1 million in debt. I'm going to offer to pay that off.
At like 650 score.
And then I'm going to tell you, look we're lowering your monthly payment. You're paying $3,000 a month. Now you're paying $1,200 a month. Which one sounds better to you,
Dude, for real.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles.
I'm not going to lie. I still, I feel like I got more information, but I still feel like I don't understand, but I can tell it's bullshit.
It is bullshit to a certain extent, but the problem is not enough people can buy a home outright, and pretty much no one can. So,
and that to me,
what is money?
The fatal flaw in the system. Like, I don't feel like it's designed for people to actually, like the common people to actually be able to own homes. I feel like it's designed for rich people to end up with all the spots on the monopoly board.
Being like landlords.
Possibly, yeah. But there are like poor people who buy homes. They're just not in California. The thing too, it's like the reason why real estate is such a valuable asset and why so many people want it is because you can borrow against it, and it's something that like appreciates without you even putting a like lick of effort into it for the most part. Yeah. So it's one of those weird things where it's like such a powerful tool because like imagine you rent your whole life and you're in credit card debt, you're just fucked. But if you own a home and you're in credit card debt, you have the chance. There's a way out because you can refinance and take cash against your home. Like otherwise, if you're renting and you're in credit card debt, you're doing like Upstart and you're just trading at 24% interest rate for like a 15, and you're like, I guess I'll do this instead. Eventually, pay it off and switch my life around, But it's like.
I feel like, yeah, most people don't even do that.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't even think about refinancing, which is so sad because it's like, dude, like, how I look at a home now is like not even like a dream of a living situation. It's just like a safety net. Because like instead of if you had no savings at all but you owned a home, you're in good shape. Because if something happens, you can leverage your home and pay off everything that you need to pay off.
Yeah.
But like,
aren't you like left in kind of a precarious situation where like your home's not. Like the value of your home isn't yours anymore. It like it belongs to the bank or whoever. Not
necessarily. Your house is always gonna belong to the bank until you pay it off. And people do pay off their homes. But the thing is, you also leverage your home for money all the time, and it's the best tool to leverage money because it's like if you do a business loan, SVA loan, any other loan, like for whatever reason, homes are just a really great, kind of drive for cheap money. So I don't. It is you're left in a precarious situation, but if you understand like how to leverage your money, it's not like I talked to a variety of people who have no intention of ever paying off their home. It's like leasing a car. They're like,
that's wild.
Yeah, they're like, I'll die and then the bank can do whatever the fuck they want. And these people are either people who own multiple properties, or they're people who, don't have kids, or if the kids want, they can take over the loan. That's an option. Whatever. It's like the people that are like, I don't want to leave behind something, or I don't care to. I just want to use this to make my life easier. It's weird because it's like, there's like someone could have a 30-year loan, cheaper payment, but they're paying it for 30 years. And the 30-year loan, say, is $500. And then you have a 15-year loan, and they're paying it off quicker. It's going to be paid off in 15 years, but the payment's $1,500. So 3 times as much, right?
Yeah.
Or twice as much, whatever it ends up being. Now, if the guy with a 30-year loan that only paid $500 a month took the difference between the 15-year option, so say he has an extra $1,000 of cash flow, and invested that somewhere else or used that money wisely, he would be better off than the guy that took the safer bet with the 15-year loan, because now the money that he put towards paying off his home, it's like, great, I own a home free and clear, but the other guy owns $2 million in a fucking mutual fund
it is. Yeah,
that he's been paying on for 30 years.
And there's like tax benefits of like paying off a mortgage.
Of course, and that's another reason why like
weird brackets involved.
Like for instance, Gavin Newsom was gifted a home for $1 million. Gifted. The first thing he did was he refinanced. He took 80% of the equity out of the home, multi-million-dollar home. He got tax-free $2 million, or whatever the home was worth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, what wealthy people understand is they don't ever use their own money. They're always using other people's money because you don't have to pay taxes when you take out a loan. If you take out a loan for $1,000 for a personal loan, so you want to buy some furniture, you don't pay taxes on that $1,000. If you go earn $1,000, you're gonna pay taxes on that $1,000. And then on top of that, all the real estate you bought has write-offs out the wazoo. You know what I mean? You have write-offs for depreciation. You have write-offs if you have any interest on the home itself. So it's a great tax haven for people.
Well, see, that's where I feel like a big issue of this like becomes kind of like a scheme or something. Like how you said like the thing about that wealthy people know to do, like how the way you phrase it right now, for verbatim, but it's like even if poor people knew how to do that, they wouldn't have the money to do it. I can't go from having $0 to being like, wow, I'll just get $100,000 loan with my bad credit score and then make my money work for me. You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
That's why I feel like it's like the population is only increasing, and the amount of available spaces, homes, whatever you want to call them, for people to own is like relatively. It's not decreasing, but it's not increasing. Like how you're saying,
enough.
It's not increasing enough. So it's like I feel like what happens, like how it goes in waves like this. Like again, I don't understand it at all. Like, I'm just going up based off this fucking limited information I just got right now.
Yeah.
But, like, it sounds like the interest rates go up, the actual cost of the house goes down, or
Yeah.
that goes back and forth. But, like, what happens is that big corporations, or very wealthy people and or very wealthy corporations, are able to swallow up more and more. So maybe let's, at the beginning of the scenario, 50% of homes and land is owned by corporations and wealthy individuals. 50% is common people. Then it goes up, it goes down. It goes 80% is owned by the wealthy, 20%. And it goes back down, but it never goes back to 50-50. It's just increasingly, it's almost like this bell curve that, like, it's never quite 0% of the common people own land, but it's increasingly getting lower and lower until we end up in this scenario where if you are not born into wealth and prestige and a position where people are going to, you're going to have the opportunity to have the wealth and then be educated on how to use it, you're just fucked.
Well, that could be the outcome in the future. I don't think it's the outcome at the present, though, because, like, I talk to people all the time that are super poor and still own homes. It's not like it's unattainable. It's just, it seems that way in California because it is unattainable if you're not making, like, at least, you know, $100,000 a year. You're gonna be pretty fucked around here.
Well, that's the thing, is it's not unattainable because, like, you got experience. You're talking to people all over the country. It's not unattainable for everyone everywhere, but for us sitting here in this room, it's pretty fucking unattainable. So the other option you laid out for us is like, well, that thing that happened to our grandparents where they buy a house for $100,000 and then X amount of years later it's worth 1.5 million.
Fucking amount.
Yeah, that's not going to happen here in California, but it'll happen if we all go to Mississippi or wherever.
Montana, baby.
Yeah, if we all go and invade.
But we don't have to go. That's the thing that is, like, the one nice part about the technology that we're dealing with is what, you know, a lot of people are doing that also might be a problem down the road and is probably going to be a problem at some point. There's always going to be issues, and, you know, I mean, if you're a capitalist, you hope the market corrects itself. If you're not, you're hoping the government will intervene. But what a lot of people are doing is they make good money here, they rent, they buy property in Illinois, elsewhere, they buy rental property, then they have that pay for their mortgage here, which is something you can, you know, completely do. And, like, even, like, say, like, I think my first home that I buy, it might not be for me. That's a very good chance unless I'm willing to move somewhere else. So, like, I could buy a fourplex in Chicago for, like, $150,000. That mortgage payment's gonna be like $1,000. You rent out the 4 rooms for like $3,000, and then you end up with a little bit of cash flow, and now you own property that could appreciate, might not, but it's cash flow. And then you also can borrow against it, because eventually what happens is, even if the property doesn't gain equity, say it never gets more than $100,000, you're taking that money and you're paying down the loan. So eventually the loan will be at zero. The house is still going to be worth $100,000, which means I can still borrow 80% of that, which means I can still borrow $80,000 from that house. So I guess, like, I don't think you're absolutely right where, like, it does seem like we're kind of fucked if we don't figure out some sort of rules or regulation in this regard, because it seems like a lot of corporations, and not even here but overseas, there's a lot of Saudi money in, you know, apartment complexes, things like that. There's a lot of outside influences buying up land, buying up, you know,
not to be like the scaremonger, but, like, I've heard, like, like Chinese, like, entrepreneurs, like, come over to, like, Vancouver and, like, buy up.
Yeah, there's
huge apartment complexes.
Yeah, there's tons of that. So it's
that's been happening for years.
It definitely seems grim, but also it doesn't mean that necessarily just because you live in a very expensive area you can't benefit by it. It just doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a homeowner in the home that you're going to live in yourself unless you're willing to relocate. You know what I mean? Because, like, a server here could afford a house, just maybe for somebody else. But that house, in return, could maybe help you afford a house here. You know what I mean? Like, it's, like, one of those things where it's, like...
But the thing is that numbers-wise, like, out of all the servers who exist, you're talking, like, maybe 1, if not, like, 0.01% of them are going to end up being the homeowners.
Oh, no, yeah, definitely not.
I just feel like the number of individual common people who have the opportunity...
Yeah,
the combination of the opportunity and, like, the circumstances, like the motivation, maybe they've got a little money they inherited, father or mother who understands finance, like, they're a tiny percent of the total population.
Yeah.
That amount of people common people who are able to own a home is increasingly just getting smaller and smaller until the point where all you have left is, well, then I'll just move. Everybody invades and not invades. There's this word I can't think of right now. Gentrify. Everyone goes and gentrifies some other state.
That's exactly what happens.
And then the same thing happens to that state. And I think, that's the thing is, like you said, it's like, well, yeah, down the future we might have a problem, but like right now we're okay. It's like, but what I'm worried about is the future where we end up because we're at the point now where government is very, and it's always been like this, but especially like with social media and interconnectivity of communication and all that, government and big corporations are tied up in a way like never before, and they've been tied up for a long time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and it's only getting worse. I'm foreseeing some kind of weird dystopian future where all of the land is owned by, let's say the government owns zero land other than specific like the Pentagon and like the White House. Like that's government land, but we don't. The government doesn't own any land. But fucking Coca-Cola does. And fucking Tesla does.
See, that's the thing.
No, none of us common people own it. We're all beholden to you. You can do whatever the fuck you want to us.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm a stupid common person how I am right now. It's like, what am I gonna do? Not get gas? What am I gonna do? The interest rate was 12% last year. Now it's 15%. What am I gonna fucking do about it?
Yeah.
I just gotta fucking suck it up.
And that's the weirdest part is like so much of our like entire economy is tied to very like small sectors. Like, I mean, you saw like just gas prices alone can throw off our entire economy, and it's like the same with like housing price. Like the big ones, it's like housing, it's like food, and it's gas. Those are the three big things where you're like, if those are awry, inflation and dark times are ahead, and that's the problem. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily like a problem with capitalism, but it's a problem with the system that we're in now that is unchecked, where like in European countries and in a lot of other countries, there's certain parameters, like there's certain amounts that you can't charge in rent. There's certain, like for instance, like I think in real estate in France, if there's a bid put in, you can't, there's no bidding, like there's no outbidding. So if someone has an offer, that's the offer. You can't just outbid another person, which I think maybe potentially could solve a lot of issues, because if people weren't getting outbidded all the time, then they could secure a home without having to compete with this cash offer. So it's weird because it's like being in the industry myself, it's like I don't really understand what possible solution they could do, but they do need to do something. And also, I don't know how you limit corporations' yield. It's one of those things where it's like, it's so hard to accomplish in our bipartisan system, because the Democrats want to do it, but are also in bed with the corporations that are doing it, and then the Republicans are in bed with the government, who like can't really touch things, also because of corporations, but also because they don't want to cause any sort of economic fucking collapse. And they don't want to artificially do anything to the market, which is kind of what needs to happen, because you can't just let interest rates go back to 18% like they were in the 80s, and then we're all fucked, So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know what the solution is. It's going to be really wild to see what is kind of come up with, because let's be real, even in California where we are, like, we can't see $5,000 one-bedroom apartments for rent. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Maybe that's where we're fucking heading. I know it is, and maybe that they're gonna do the Disneyland model, where it's like, okay, well now you can go to Six Flags. You know what I mean? That's the comparison.
It's like Berry Farm down the street.
Yeah,
man.
Exactly. It's like, if you can't afford this $5,000 one bedroom that's a mile away from the beach, you're gonna get your $2,001 bedroom that's in fucking Hemet. You know what I mean? So that's the fucking shitty reality of it. It's like, what do you do with that? You know?
I mean, I say we just go back to the good old fucking Führer system. We just elect a Führer and take all the undesirables, we ship them off,
Australia's always hiring.
Dude, I know.
They're hiring Gestapo. You know what's an interesting fun fact about fucking Nazi Germany? A lot of the soldiers who were recruited to be like SS and Gestapo, like main fucking like death soldiers, and like maybe they didn't start off as death troopers, but like the people who started off bolstered those ranks of muscle for the Nazi regime were students who couldn't pay off their student loans. They're disenfranchised kids because way more. Yeah, well, way more people were going to university, getting degrees and unable to get jobs.
Yeah.
They were just left and mired in debt, and especially if you're a German back then, fucking Germany's economy just collapsed. You got fucking wheelbarrows full of cash to buy bread. So Hitler's like, hey, if you want a job, I'll give you a job.
Yeah.
You know, and like I don't necessarily know the point I'm trying to make with that, but like there's a lot of disenfranchised people right now in the country.
What's interesting, and this is what makes it so confusing, is obviously the job raise is at, like, they're increasing wages by 5%, which doesn't keep up with the 8% inflation. However, the odd part is there's so many fucking jobs right now, which is not common in recessions or depressions. Usually you have a constriction of jobs where there's not enough jobs to go around. In our case, it's probably due to COVID, because so many people just don't want to work right now. Or like just
I liked being at home.
Yeah,
well, I keep hearing it's an unemployment thing.
I'm not
like
collecting, but I like being at home.
Yeah.
I keep hearing so many people are getting unemployment that they don't want to work, but it's like, how? I stopped receiving unemployment.
It's not here, dude. I mean, well, yeah, for sure.
Not in California.
Yeah, well, I mean, that ship has sailed for sure. Because, like, honestly, in California, it never really worked because you couldn't even afford to live off the unemployment you were getting, regardless of how nice it seemed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, for the most part, like, if you were, like, someone who owned a 2-bedroom and the rent was $3,000 and you're getting, like, $1,500. Oh, I guess you're getting, like, $1,500 a week or something, right? Or some, it was, like, $900
like
a week.
With the stimulus, I think it was, like, $900. You're
Yeah,
getting $600 plus $300 on top of that.
You could live, but, like, you weren't. Like, if you were...
You're moving.
Yeah, if you were making, like, a 60...
If you had roommates, you were okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But you couldn't live on your own.
Right. And so I think what happened... I don't know if this is, like... It's so weird, because I'm not even sure what is, like, propaganda or not at this point. Because, like, when I'm looking for jobs, there are a lot of jobs. There's tons of jobs. Yeah. You can definitely get a job.
I see a lot of signs, like, hiring, blah,
yeah,
blah, blah.
like, people are looking for people to work. The thing, too, is, like... People, I mean, I think at some point, like, a lot of it had to do with, like, at least a white collar. They're like, well, I can work from home, so I'm just going to only accept jobs that work from home. Where a lot of people don't want to do that because they want to use like, corporations want to use the $1 million assets that they bought, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's weird because I'm like, how are we entering a recession when there's so many jobs that are available for people? But the thing is, the jobs also aren't, well, some jobs aren't paying enough to keep up with the inflation.
I was gonna bring that up, yeah.
So people feel like they just don't even want to participate because it's like, what?
That job's a joke.
Yeah, that job's a joke. They feel too good for the job, or like,
fuck, the whole system's a joke at this point. That's how I feel. I mean,
well, I'm sure that's how they felt in 2008 too. Like, I don't know if it's like maybe different though. I feel like the weird part is, I don't know, like
It's kind of like, okay, you make fun of burger flippers.
Yeah.
And then they want to just get paid better, and then it's like, okay, well.
And that's why so many places are
put up with your shit, get
which
paid
is good,
less for
honestly.
it. Yeah.
Like Starbucks and Amazon, they're doing unions. Like, that was probably fucking needed because it's like, who the fuck wants to work that much, make nothing, and then like
still not be able to pay their bills?
Exactly, and it's fucking criminal. It's like, dude, why the fuck am I gonna work at Starbucks and you're telling me I have to wake up at 4 to get all this coffee ready for people at 5,
for
and you're gonna pay me fucking $15 an hour? And like my paycheck's gonna be $2,000, and my rent's $2,000. It's like, you can fuck right off with that.
The manager gets some of my tips. It's like, what?
Yeah, and that's the thing the corporations are missing. It's like, people, if you want people to work less desirable shifts, you pay the people more that work the less desirable shifts. That's usually how it works. Yeah. But that's not what happened, you know? No. So then Starbucks had to fucking unionize, which is like the biggest fear of fucking Howard Schultz and his fucking in the world, you know? So it's like, well, what did you fucking expect? If you would just pay people more to work the worst shifts, they probably wouldn't fucking do that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Well,
this is where I start going down the real, like, deep rabbit hole, like, conspiratorial road. Because, like, and again, I have not done any. I am neither educated nor am I well researched. I'm not a tinfoil hat wearing Q head, nor am I a indoctrinated fucking liberal grad student. So I'm basically just a dumb common person. But I have heard very, very often that it's like a known fact that's established that not Jeff Bezos, who's the other fucking rich guy, not Musk.
Gates?
The George Soros. I heard it's known that George Soros funds Antifa. Like he pays their bail. It gives them money to organize like their shit. Like, And on top of that, it's a known fact that George Soros has experience, like, I don't know who he was working for, but he has experience, like, overthrowing governments and, like, making currency plummet and devalue and, like, taking the established government.
To stuff, like, in Latin America, right? Where he, like...
Yeah.
Collapsed economies and stuff.
Yeah, see, this is where we need, like, an Alex Jones type person who's, like, well versed in this stuff to, like, bring it up. Because I couldn't tell you what to look up right now.
Supplements to eat so we could...
Turn gay. Turn gay like the frogs.
Can we do a small potty break?
All right.
I'll take a small potty break.
We'll come back to it. I'll
be right back.
I have to piss as well.
All right.
Up Jeff Bezos over here. I keep saying Jeff Bezos. George Soros.
Oh yeah.
Why do they have such similar names? These fucking. I bet this is the same person. He just pulls a little zipper at the forehead, goes down the forehead, sheds his reptilian skin.
Some Scooby Doo shit.
I like here pouring the beer in the glass. It's funny.
Dude, we're getting.
You ever go to Japanese restaurants and then they give you like a tall beer in a small glass?
The tiniest glass, yeah.
Dude, it's kind of fun though, because you're like, you feel like you have like 4 beers in one beer.
Yeah. Dude, Asians are weird like that, man. They like to take large things and shove them into tiny packages and then make it look all like the feet thing.
Presentation.
You know the fucking yeah. You know the is it Chinese or Japanese?
I'm not gonna pretend like I know. Like
the feet bonding thing.
Yeah,
like,
where they put them in small ass shoes.
Yeah, and they turn into like these weird like elephant looking hooves where
honestly,
like they're
I
like.
could see either one like doing it.
Yeah, they're all fucked up over there. They got this big ass wall they don't use, and they fucking create COVID, send it over here. They don't admit it. It's fucked up. Anyways, let's get back to my conspiracy tinfoil.
American bullshit.
Yeah, back to our American conspiracy theories
dude.
over here. Hey, watch it. This is the America podcast over here, pro America. But dude, what I'm getting nervous about is that like they say. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes, and we're seeing a lot of rhyming going on in the 2020s to what was going on in the early 20th century, the 1900s, 1920s, 1930s, and that we had 2 world wars as a result. And one of the things that I find very interesting is that fact that I learned recently that the initial ranks of the German Hitler's Third Reich army were disenfranchised college students who were in debt because there was no jobs for them. Who do you think makes up Antifa?
Disenfranchised, no jobless hobo, fucking
indoctrinated lefty college students.
That's funny that your mind went to that because my first thought was like, oh, what's like the first like thing I feel like is like the rhetoric of like, oh, like I can't afford college on my own. Join the military then. It's like
true. Well, one was interesting too. Speaking of target of disenfranchised, like
there we go.
All the redneck fucking like on the right side, where it's like those guys are just as disenfranchised as Antifa. Like they don't have a gold pot to piss in.
But here's the pivotal difference between those guys is that those guys are indoctrinated to believe in the United States of America, the American flag, the U.S. Constitution. This land is our land. You're not fucking taking it from us. But the Antifa side of things. They are disenfranchised, but they are being indoctrinated that the solution is to overthrow the system.
Right.
Is to take the current societal system, the current documents, the current the laws and regulations that we base our system and our society off of, and to flip it and to create a new one. That's how you end up. The Constitution is designed in a way to avoid totalitarianism. So if you want totalitarianism, you're not going to do it constitutionally. You're going to have to scrap that thing altogether and create your own thing. Yeah. And who is more I'm not saying George Soros specifically as an individual, but who is more poised to position themselves as a figurehead to be the one to fill the power vacuum that is created from flipping the board upside down? It ain't poor people. Yeah. It ain't people who can't afford a fucking mortgage. It's people with multiple homes, with private jets, with private security, control over the media, control over the social media. So we're so used to this idea that like that shit happens over there, that shit used to happen back then, it doesn't happen here. But the dominoes are lining up in this very unique way that I feel like there's some fucked up shit going on in the background, and there are absolutely individuals and entities who are working either by themselves or together to try and create a scenario where the rule of law can be discarded. No more due process, no more no more police.
But I think the piece that's missing is like the government's in bed with all of them. You know what I mean? Like and the thing is like the problem with that is like the disenfranchised group that has so much control over like the mainstream things that we see today are also in bed with the government that decides like policy and what we do. And then on top of that, they're actively protesting against things that are occurring that is caused by the government. So it's like weird because it's almost cyclical and like unnatural in nature, because it's like I feel like a lot of these political leaders are just plain dumb to the fact that it's like, yeah, the complaints that the things that they're piggybacking on, these complaints of like inequality and shit like that, is caused by regulations that the government puts in place, which is why they feel the system is so fucked up. And it's like, that's where I get confused, where I'm like, because like obviously we don't want to flip the system upside down, but at the same time, and as we just discussed in the past hour, we recognize that there's certain bubbles that need to be popped, and something has to happen in just that. In the last hour, we talked about just the housing sector alone. That's happening with farming. That's happening with products. That's happening everywhere. And it's like
materials and stuff.
Yeah, just
education,
everything, education, like, and all of it. It's like it's like a law of diminishing returns. You know what I mean? Where it's like you're just not getting the same output of that to match the input, which is what is so weird. Where it's like I don't know who to point fingers at, because it seems like something that like the elites are using Antifa as a cloak to hide shit that they're doing, like buying tons of homes and like
point. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's all distractions, like everything. And it's like
everywhere.
George Soros, he doesn't give a shit about Antifa or whatever. And then also like there's a gaggle of elites that are on his side and against his side, but are doing the same thing. It's like it's all some illusion trick.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah,
well, that's
to
the
keep
thing,
us
is that
outraged enough so that they don't notice that they're fucking increasing the gas prices.
Well,
you know what I mean?
So what I think is going on, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those like people that like, if you're the red team, I can trust you, and if you're the blue team, I can't trust you. Like, I guarantee that there are fucking double crossers on both sides. Like, I'm sure there are Democrats who are Democrat politicians and elites who are like outside of the know and think that they're doing the right thing just for the right moral reasons, just like there are left or right-wing Republican people who are pretending that they're like pro right-wing, but really they're trying to take advantage and consolidate power and money the same way that the left is. But for the most part, what you're seeing is that the leftist elites are trying to position themselves in a way that they're still lying and manipulating everybody into thinking that they're on their side, while still consolidating power, while still doing the insider trading, while still getting as much money consolidated as possible before the shit crashes down. But they're positioning themselves in a way in the public zeitgeist, in the social media, in the social sociological space, that like when the system comes crashing down, they'll say, well, I was a person of the people this whole time, so since the system's crashed, shouldn't I be one of the people that you trust and perhaps put on the top of the throne? Whereas the people on the right, as a general whole, are like, no, like, we need the system, don't let it crash. So when the system crashes, the leftists will have someone to point at and see, they were the ones who said that this shouldn't happen. They were the ones keeping you down. Meanwhile, I'm a fucking billionaire as well, but I made sure that I paid off the right people so that didn't appear in social media. Exactly. But that right guy, he was in social media because he was public about how it's a good thing for people to make money off of their individual pursuits. I'm very, very fucking scared. I like how you brought up the military thing too, because look at what's fucking going on with our military. Have you seen that fucking? Pull up the latest that fucking. I think there's actually a video out where it's like a comparison video showing like the most recent like Russia has like a pro join the military ad, and you compare it with the one from fucking America. And it, like the pro-Russian one, I'll let him look it up. But basically, the pro-Russian one, or the Russian one, is very, very traditional, masculine badassness. And then the join the United States Marines or whatever is like some chick like, I grew up with two moms and they were both very
accept
accepting.
lesbians now.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that the United States military is so accepting. What they're doing is
What
they're
if
getting these
everything
people
we
who
think-
are already indoctrinated into their position and trying to get them to join the military to then train them with in combat and with weapons. And if and when the system crashes down, so long as there's a leftist in power, that person is the commander-in-chief of the army. Well, the system crashed down. There is no more commander-in-chief. It's like, well, you're used to taking orders, right? And I was the last person you took orders from. I want you to occupy X state. I want you to occupy
But that's
X.
not just because that's the commercial, that's not the reality of the military situation.
Oh yeah, Russia's.
No,
I would say
I'm
Russia's
just saying like
hardcore.
like the commercials being inclusive or whatever, but like
They said
like-
the same thing about the university system, though. 10 years ago.
yeah,
5,
but
10
the
years
thing
ago.
is the problem that like or I should say the great thing about the military is it will never be like the military. Like if I could make a meme of a military dude, it would be like this pickup truck with a Confederate flag as a license plate and guns and blah blah. Like it's you know what I mean.
But the
Like,
thing is, you could make a meme of
That
what
don't trend on
what
me,
somebody who was a university student was 50 years ago, and it's fucking night
yeah,
and
but it
day
wouldn't
to
be
what it is
that
now.
far off from what it is now. Like as far as like what
No, they
claim to
believe
be.
the liberals 50 years ago were fighting for free speech. Now they're fighting against free speech.
Yeah.
It is night and day.
I know, but the thing is, the military is like something that's like it's fun. I don't know. I just don't think it would be something that could like Antifa could infiltrate the military because the military would eat anyone who is like that alive.
I get what you're saying, and I see where you're coming from, but what I'm saying is that these things happen gradually until all of a sudden the thing that used to be a certain way isn't that way anymore. And we're
Yeah.
like, how'd this happen? Brick by brick. The fucking wall built around you is built brick by brick. So maybe 10 years ago, the amount of people who were in the military who were like pro Antifa was 0%. 5 years ago, it was 1%. Now it's 10%. 5 years from now, it's 25%. And eventually we get to this point where as soon as we reach 51% or more, and you are now the gun-toting, prideful American flag-bearing person, as soon as you're in the minority, we're in trouble. And that's what I'm saying,
But
is
the
that I
problem
think
is
that we're...
Antifa is innately unpatriotic, and they're joining something that is innately patriotic.
That's how you switch it.
I know, but I don't understand how that transition happens. Like, I mean, you might be right, but I don't understand how that transition can happen because it's like a communist being a business major. It just doesn't make sense to me.
And you could argue that's exactly what happened in the university, is that you took these disciplines.
But even in universities, like the people who were in the business sector, like, speaking from personal experience, like laughed at people that were in humanities. It was it was like red and blue. You know what I mean? It was like it wasn't like those people in humanities were infiltrating.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
I still don't think that's the case. Like, I don't think there's communists majoring in business. That just would be odd. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
If
I
I'm a
just don't-
communist who's trying to change the way business goes, I'm entering into that field and changing it on an individual basis. And if enough of us do that, if 100,000 people major in business and 1% of them, so 1,000 people actually get jobs, you now have 1,000 indoctrinated.
I mean, maybe I'm like too optimistic. I just don't think George Soros has that much control over these blue hairs. You know.
I think you underestimate the power of money, then, my friend.
Well, like, communists hate money. You know.
Unless it's working for them.
I don't. All right, play the commercial.
Got it. Let's go.
Let's see this.
Ready?
Yeah.
Is that Putin?
No.
Первый день твоей новой жизни. Что ты знаешь о себе? На что ты способен? Вопросы могут остаться без ответов, но разве ты сможешь познать себя? Познать границы своих возможностей? К черту границы. Ты готов ломать себя? Да, потому что без врага нет боя, а без боя нет победы. Но на самом деле, главный враг вчерашний — ты. Твоя задача — выследить врага, догнать его, превзойти, стать лучше, чем он, и вернуться назад.
You go, Dave Rubin. Nah, you can skip it.
It begins in California with a little girl raised by two moms. I also marched for equality.
This is not a real commercial.
I like to think I've been defending freedom
This
from
is
an
how we're
early
recruiting
age.
people to the United States
No, it's
military.
not.
This is
Standing
like
at the altar to marry my other
It's just
mom.
not like.
With such powerful role models, I finished high school at the top of my class. I found it. A way to prove my inner strength and maybe shatter some stereotypes along the way.
Dude, yeah.
I'm U.S. Army Corporal Emma Malone Lord, and I answered my calling.
Dave Rubin
Yeah,
as a
Dave-
gay
yeah.
is like,
Dave-
that's fucking gay.
Dave Rubin's face says it all. Thank you, Dave Rubin. Thank you. But okay, so in answer to your criticisms, which I appreciate, I totally get where you're coming from, but like basically you were saying like, how do you go from the military being the way that it was to being how to Cruz is
Can I just draw
predicting
a
it?
quick comparison?
Right fucking there. That's how.
No, but like, listen. Remember when that Pepsi commercial went viral of Kylie Jenner putting the flour in the fucking...
I still see memes of that today.
Yeah,
I fucking
remember
love
how
it.
like south that went? That's
Yeah.
how I feel in my mind. That's how I feel this commercial is, where it's like, okay, you can't end racism with Pepsi, and you also can't end sexism in the military with some lame ass commercial that
Can't end war
like,
crimes with lesbians.
because the fact of the matter is, the people who want to be in war, not unfortunately, but just like
They're gonna find a
reality,
way.
it's the kids that wanted to play with guns when they were little.
That's
Honestly.
that's how it used to be.
No,
yeah.
it still is. Just because a commercial came on doesn't mean it shifted how people think.
Dude, you're so underestimating how many people in this country want to flip
Yeah,
the board.
get woke.
Just because I'm a little girl with 2 moms doesn't mean I watch that commercial. I'm like, now I want to join the military. Like
you are if you're under the impression that the only way to change the current system we're in is to flip it and destroy it completely.
So
maybe
if,
like
if I could interject, then I think the commercial is meant to like kind of like change like perspectives of like, okay, like we're always gonna get the gun-toting kid in the military, but right now he's painted as like a school shooter. We don't want that as like our image. Let's
Yeah.
get like what's hip.
No, they're trying to. I don't even know if it like because to me what you're making it sound like is George Soros or someone that's backing, the left is somehow trying to infiltrate the military through a commercial and has someone who's like doing like the marketing for whatever. And just I'm just saying this based off like Haley's boyfriend who's a Marine and like all his friends, and they're like all just super aggro dudes that like are exactly what I said, where it's like we like trucks, we like guns, we like to fuck shit up, and we're here to, you know what I mean? It's like I think I feel like I don't know how, and maybe I am being naive because obviously like parties flip, but it's like I'd say 90% of Army, Navy, Air Force are probably Republicans. Or at least the vast majority.
That's way too much. Yeah,
You think? I'd say like 80.
It might have been 90% 10 years ago.
I still think it's really high.
But here's the thing. Even if you're willing to be like, well, maybe it's 80. 80's less than 90. So let's give it another 10 years. I don't think it's going down. I don't think it's going back from 80 to 90. I think it's going to keep sliding until because here's the thing is ask any one of those guys. Maybe some of
but
them
people who go to college don't want to go into the military.
unless you end up just like the same people who fortified the Gestapo and the SS.
I understand that, but the thing, I get it.
I know, but you're
get
doing.
it.
But I understand the resistance to it. But like you're.
It's not resistance. I just don't think.
Well, your initial reaction is to be like, that was back then somewhere else. That can't and won't happen here.
No, I just don't think the traction will be built. There's tons of things that happen, cults that happen that fizzle out.
But here's
quickly.
my point that I'm trying to make. That is exactly what people said when people like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson appeared on Joe's podcast 5 years ago saying, this is what's going on in the university system. Their goal is to take over the corporate and private sector. And everyone was like, you're making much ado about nothing. This is just a bunch of college kids going through a phase and they're going to get over it. And now what we're seeing is everything. Look at what we're seeing in fucking like mainstream shit like Disney and Paramount and all these people. I don't even want to know what the new Rugrats show is going to be about. You know what I mean? I don't even want to know what kind of bullshit they're putting into that. When I was a kid watching TV, there was no sexuality. One of the beautiful things about Star Wars is that one kiss happened ever. And it was between Han and Leia because it mattered to the plot.
Well,
now,
Luke and Leia also.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so I'll give you that. All right, but there was no
Republican. No, I'm just kidding.
there was no
Good old Republican.
there was no conversation
Isn't it fucked
about
that we just tie that into.
there was no. Do you think Admiral Akbar's gay? Maybe he's trans. No, there was none of that going on.
Yeah.
Now that's being shoehorned into everything. And 5 years ago, people were saying the same criticism that you're saying, that like, I just don't think that this is going to catch traction.
No, I understand.
It has taken over our culture.
Yeah, for sure. And then I circle back to where it's like the two things that we think are going to happen, where it's like either we keep the Constitution alive or we flip the system on its head. And then the part, because I agree with you to a large extent, but it's also like I don't know what's going to happen, because to a certain extent I think we both agree from our last conversation that it's like there needs to be some sort of flipping going on or something to happen, otherwise everyone's just fucked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like obviously I don't agree with what's going on over there, because you're right, it seems like what's going to lead into a power vacuum. But then at the same time I just don't see a solution in this, like in the parameters that we're playing in. Like, it's so weird, because it's like it really is just at this point like a game. Like, there's no, I honestly think like this is, if I was to do anything, like if I was to make any sort of difference, I think the number one thing I would just say is like take out corporate money in politics altogether. Like you can't do anything.
The campaign funding.
I just think the campaign funding,
Like super PACs and shit.
well, I just
Fuck
think
that.
you can't. I think if there's the minute they allowed corporations to donate like exorbitant amounts of money to any sort of politician, is like the end of democracy together, because you can't tell who is bought or sold by anything, and that's the problem. Because the thing is, and that's what's
It's just
allowing
safer to
this
assume they
shit to
already
kind of
are.
happen. Is like no one can stand up to a George Soros indoctrination, because everyone's bought out by someone that might have an interest in the George Soros indoctrination. You know
Well,
what I
and
mean?
just to be fair, just because you mentioned it a couple of times, I don't want to have it come off like I'm sitting here like Cruz believes that George Soros is the fucking
no,
the Hitler who's gonna. That's just a name. That's just a name
that's
to
all-
throw
and
out there.
Also, it's the only name that I know that's like directly tied to that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So it's like it's nice to have just a figurehead, but let's just, for the record, state that anyone in sort of George Soros position or someone like, it's a placeholder. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
insert Antifa leader there.
Mhm.
You know, but that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't know what you do, because like I feel like I don't know why they don't do this. I don't know what has to happen, and this is maybe the minor revolution that might have to happen, where it's like we just have to get all the money out of the politics, because you are a civil servant, which means like the word servant, you're not expected to be bought out by these companies, you know?
Mhm.
You're supposed to be
serve your entire. I mean,
You're supposed to
serve your
represent your
entire
constituency.
Exactly, which you can't. You're just representing the fucking shareholders that you're bought from.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, because like if you can't have an honest discourse, it's just like the media. It's just like if you're on fucking CNN and you can't say this talking point because it contradicts like what your platform stands for. It's the same as a politician. They can't say like, hey, I'm Republican, but also like abortion's fine. You can't say that, because it's like
like
some
like, who are you?
whatever. You're gonna
Yeah.
lose funding from a certain source of whatever, and it makes the
it's like immediately like, oh, so you think like
yeah. Well,
they
it makes
go
the
off the deep
discourse so
end.
narrow. It
It's
makes
very
it so
polarized.
it makes it so narrow to where like we hear the same talking points every year for the last 40 years, and for some reason have made no progress or care to even like ask why we're just hearing the same shit while they're doing all this other stuff not in our interest, which we saw when we were fucking hearing the COVID bill.
Mhm.
It's like there's a million things on the COVID bill.
That's not nice.
That's
oh
weird.
my goodness, I did not like that.
I did not like that either, bro. Also,
We're turning off all devices.
We're
right
100%
now.
being spied on as we speak.
Apple said,
That-
you don't say that.
Yeah, you shut the
That's
fuck
not
up.
As a major
But
corporation.
you know what I mean? Like, doesn't that seem like if that was eradicated, at least there would be so much more transparency where we wouldn't have these issues? Because, like, the problem is there's so much, like Republicans go on Fox, Democrats go on CNN, you know, brave Democrats go on Fox, and brave Republicans go on CNN.
And they just get smeared the whole time they're there.
And everything just
Get
gets
talked
weird.
over, just treated like shit.
Like,
Yeah.
if anything, like, at least, like, if there's no, like, private interest in all these politicians, we would know that their shit opinions are at least from themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that would be helpful. Like,
Well, the thing is that you were mentioning, like, why the fuck is it so rigid that, like, you can't be a Republican who's like, yeah, I'm a Republican, but I'm also pro-abortion. the reason why, I mean, I don't know this, is a little conspiratorial, a little tinfoil hatty, but like I think the reason why is because they make it that way. It's almost like the political parties are set up in this weird way where like some of the stuff overlaps but also contradicts. So it's like a normal like real person would take certain ideas from both parties, but that's why it's so smartly designed so that like you have to pick one and you have to like kind of die on these hills. Like maybe I'm like this is the classic thing is I'm a fiscal conservative, I'm a social liberal. Yeah. It's almost like we should have a party for that, but no, we made it specifically so that you can't have
that's the fucking craziest shit to me, because it's like I'd venture to say at least 65% of the population probably agrees to the extent. Like even Democrats vastly agree that like like for instance the war in Ukraine, like Republicans and Democrats are pretty similar in their idea of like that this is wrong, that we don't like Russia, that we want to do more, but then there's also some talk about sanctions harming and not really doing anything. But it's like at least we agree on something, where it's like it's so annoying that we can't just be like, hey, can we all just pretend that like, first of all, how many people are actually still religious in this country? That's what I want to know. Because if it's 50%, then I get why the Republican have to fucking gerrymander to that side. But I just I cannot fathom to think that it's more than like 20%, if that. I feel that's high.
Yeah, I mean between fucking Judaism, atheism, Buddhism, every other religion that exists, like there's no way.
Religions are like progressive to the extent where like listen, you go to an anti-abortion rally, like there's not a lot of people there. Like let me just say that. However, it's such a fucking talking point. Even though it's like the Republican version of like the trans right people, where it's like there's such a small amount of people, and yet this is like one of the primary talking points on every.
How is this such a big part of the public discourse when like most of us don't give a shit about it
at all? Same with like gay marriage and shit like that. It's like, bro, can you just please tell me if my pothole is ever gonna be fixed in my neighborhood, or if I'm gonna get some fucking money back on my tax refund? Like that's all anyone fucking cares about.
See, and that's where I get really like conspiratorial and like tinfoil hatty. Like again, like it's not like I'm sitting here thinking like there's one figurehead like George Soros is responsible for all of this, but like there's no way it's a coincidence that these things that the mass majority of the population either don't give a shit about at all or are indifferent to. It's like it's not that I don't care. Like it's not like I don't know anything about it. It's that I do know about it and I don't care. Yeah. You know, like the mass majority of people feel that way about things like abortion on the right or transgenderism on the left. Yet somehow it's being shoehorned into everything and forced into everything
because it's just for the elite. Like Republicans, Democrats alike are just linked up in the way where they're like, hey, can we both agree this is fucking bullshit and we're just gonna do what we can to get elected again? Yep. But we're both gonna make a lot of money. It's gonna be really great. They'll be dumb, and it's only gonna affect the middle class like it always does forever, and the poor are just gonna get more poor. Like that's the thing that the corporate interest is fucking up, like our entire democracy, and I don't think the founding fathers ever intended for like.
So are you with the Coke party or the Pepsi party?
Yeah, like.
I mean, it's the same party, I guess. What would it be then?
I'm down for a Coke party.
No, Pepsi. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, dude, I don't think that the problem with like the whole the rhetoric that we're dealing with now is like I don't think that the problem they don't ever address the problem. That's the problem. It's like they say like they're like our founding fathers want to reserve the Constitution. It's like yes, but also in the Constitution nowhere does it say that public corporations can donate mass amounts of money to any one individual in order to fund their political agendas. And that's what's fucking up everything. Yeah. Literally everything.
Well, what's funny is that, because the Constitution was made in, 1776, the years leading up to that? I don't know my history on that too well, but like pre-1800s, the Constitution was written. That was before World War I. It was before World War II. Like, basically, like, leading up to that point, what's so unique about... And I'm sure there's exceptions here and there. Some fucking stupid leftist who is miseducated is going to bring up some fictional kingdom that kind of maybe existed once as an example of democracy, but for the mass majority of human history,
you haven't heard of Athens?
you haven't heard of
Ancient Greece?
Who are those big bitches?
Romans,
the Amazonians.
Oh, the Amazonians.
Yeah, the default for human history, all tribes, kingdoms, empires, what fucking have you, the default setting on every society ever created, every system between multiple human beings, was totalitarianism. Because there was one person in charge, they told everyone else what to fucking do, and they had like a military cast of people that enforced it by force. That was the default. The Constitution was written to avoid that. Flash forward 100+ years to the early 1900s, the early 20th century. Like, I've been listening to this audiobook about it recently, the rise and fall of the Third Reich. It's 7 like 8-hour parts. It's like 56 hours of content. It's just a book.
Yeah.
One of the it's praised as one of like the most comprehensive and like in-depth like analysis and like retelling of exactly what went down, exactly what led up to what happened in World War II. And what happened there is eerily similar to what we're seeing here, where social and political and economic factors all culminated in a small group of different people on their own. Mussolini in Italy, Mosley in Britain, Hitler in Germany, all the other people who Stalin, Japan, in convincing the people like, hey, maybe democracy isn't the best system. I mean, look at where democracy is. You guys are, inflation's crazy and you can't afford food and you don't got jobs, and this is where democracy got you. So maybe democracy isn't the best system. Maybe freedom of speech isn't that important. And enough disenfranchised people with shitty lives were like, you know what? You're right. We will vote you into power. Hitler was fucking elected. Yeah. He didn't take power by force, although he kind of did. Like, here's a fucking fascinating little story here. This is actually before he became into true power. He tried taking power the first time. He stormed on this. He took him and his secret police and his forces that he had amassed at that point, and kind of did a rush on like a public thing that was going on between like the elected officials at the time. And at the point of the gun, they bust into the meeting, this public meeting with all these like citizens there, like, whoa, what's going on? And they're like, hey, yeah, so me and the prime minister here and his general there, we're going to go talk in the back. So he takes him in the back and is like, hey, I'm the captain now. I'm in charge. Like, and you guys are going to sign this document saying that I'm in charge and my political party is in charge. And they were like, no, we're not going to do it. You're a fucking psychopath. Like, no, you'll have to kill us first. So what does he do? He's like, stay right here. Locks them in the door, comes out and says, everybody, General such and such and Prime Minister such and such, they agreed. I'm in charge now. You're all free to go. And he like it was a risk. It was a gamble. That's fucking like Vegas shit. Like fucking like the guy who loses the house shit, which eventually is what happened.
Yeah, but with internet, that would never happen like that, dude.
Unless you control the internet. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Is that like we have these entities who are taking power and consolidating power and pretending that they're not, and breeding this narrative. Not only are we not dictators, but we're pro-progressiveness and we're pro-trans and pro-gay. How great are we? And all the fucking stupid retards are like, yeah, they fucking said it. Or this Republican's still anti-abortion. He's a fascist. Meanwhile, the actual fascists have created a group called anti-fascists to operate as their secret police. It's this fucking bizarre...
No, I see what you're saying, but don't you think that if the Republicans were smart enough, like, if they wanted to combat this, that they would just be more progressive? That way it would give no weight to this super progressive movement? You know what I mean? Because, like, I feel like if we could even give an inch of, like, some center Republicans that took power, like, it would really throw off the entire fucking everything. You know what I mean?
I agree with that, but I think Cruz has you beat because it's like the one side already predicted or like kind of like put measures in to be like, hey, the right's gonna put in like, you know, a black person or a blonde woman, they're gonna suck, or like, you know, and
everyone's
like,
gonna use their tokens.
It's like, oh, like why are you on their side? Like, you're just like
You're the black face of white supremacy, Larry
You're
Elder.
getting money from them. Like, you're not really on their side. Like,
Yeah, well, the
they
thing
get,
is,
discredited. And it's
yeah.
I think the parallel here with the Hitler thing that I was bringing up is that the way he almost came to power the first time, which to be fair, like you're saying, like, oh, that wouldn't work until it didn't work back then. But what happened is he was in control for like a day or two, took over and people went into the streets and spread the information like, hey, everybody, Hitler's in charge. Hey, our prime minister like agreed that Hitler's in charge. That information started to spread, and then those guys, he was so cocky, he thought that was good. He was like, all right, guys, like, I know you didn't agree, but I told them you agreed. Like, is that cool? And they're like, yeah, fine, that's cool. And then he just left. And then they were like, we're getting the fuck out of here, and putting out newspapers saying that shit was bullshit. So it came back to bite him. That's how he got sent to prison. He wrote Mein Kampf in prison for that offense.
That's insane.
I
dude.
did not know that.
Flash forward some years, decade or two, and he's a household name. He's not forgotten. And all of a sudden, especially economic and social despair doesn't go down. It gets worse. And people are like, man, like, what happened to that Hitler guy who was going to solve all our problems? Like, see, I said I was going to solve the problems. And what do they do? They sent me to fucking jail. And everyone's like, you know what? Yeah, fuck them. Now we are going to actually put it to a vote and elect you Führer of the Third Reich. And what do I do as my first fucking thing as new supreme leader of the country? You know that constitution you guys have? That's gone. As the new guy who's in charge of everything, that's gone. And I'm going to write a new constitution where basically I'm in charge of everything and my final say goes. That is what I'm afraid of happening. It's
comes back from the dead, takes over America.
Dude,
you heard it first.
Bro, at this point, like, I'm just gonna try to buy myself an island. Yeah. Like, it's so depressing. That's what I hate. Like, I just wish that it just sucks because there's so many things in place to where like it's hard to imagine what you should even focus your attention on because, like, if you're looking like are you guys familiar with like a bottleneck? Like like this, you know, like
I'm very familiar. I'm very familiar with the good old bottleneck.
But you know what I mean? Like there's something in our system that's getting clogged at the bottleneck, and it's making stuff come out slower. And it's like you think it's one thing, and then you discover, oh, it actually goes up a lot further than this, and then you don't know like what you should even be focusing your attention on. Like we were just mentioning, it's like, okay, is it the fact that there's companies that have any say in our elected leaders? Like, maybe. Is it the fact that we have a two-party system that has to pander to an audience and that there's like no in between, and then you have to, you spend your first 2 years trying to get elected and your last 2 years trying to get elected again?
Reelected, yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
like,
then you get like the easy quote-unquote shit.
Yeah, but then also we want to stay away from like, I mean, I think you probably heard this on Joe Rogan or Breaking Points or whichever, where they're like, the reason China is so effective is they can actually have a long-term plan because they have one ruler that fucking long-term plans. And it's like, that's one thing that's like really hard with our kind of governing style. Not saying that we should go to that model because it's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying it's hard to long-term plan because whatever happens 4 years later is going to get reversed, and then that was like the big goal for that party, where it's like not even a big goal for that person, it was just a big goal for the companies that they represent, where it's like we're just going back and forth every 4 to 8 years.
It's like
without
20 years
actually
later,
seeing any sort of
gay marriage
progress.
is still like a big thing. It's like, okay, like, do
Yeah,
they
but
have
that's-
it or not? I want
And,
to like,
and that's all
like
a
you said,
facade for
fix the
like
fucking
whatever.
dirt.
Like
Right.
all that, like half of this shit is just a blanket so they can increase like military spending
pay
to
taxes.
have
I
a
don't
fucking
care.
war in Yemen that no one knows about or cares about. You know what I mean? Like that's like the reality of it, where it's like we're like, oh my god, Ukraine and Russia, this is so crazy, and then like. I'm being a Dave Smith stan, but it's like the war in Yemen has been going on for 10 years. No one gives a shit or knows about it.
Well, yeah, because those guys aren't white. We only care about white wars.
And and we call them developed nations to emotionally separate us as if they were savages, like we did with Native Americans.
Well, so
like it just doesn't make any sort of kind of sense. And it's like, what do you even attack when the entire system is like so manipulated?
Well, just to touch on the point that you were making there, like how like the and again, this isn't a pro-totalitarianism thing, but like there are pros and cons to everything.
Right.
The pros on being a totalitarian dictator is you can be one guy who has one plan that is going to take place over the course of 30, 40, 50 years.
Very effective.
Whereas we have our main leader and the leaders underneath them coming in and out every 4 and 2 years. So I love the quote that any great civilization cannot be destroyed from without until it has destroyed itself from within. Yeah. And that is what is so impressive and, like, for lack of a better term, like, has to be, like, appreciated for what it is, that what these other governments are doing is that they are laying long-term plans, and part of their long-term plans is exploiting our temporary systems of government so that rather than I'm a Democrat president right now, it's looking like I'm going to lose to the Republican. Maybe this is the end of my term. I can't even be reelected. And the guy coming up is a Republican. We're going to meet and have several meetings where we meet halfway and see what policies he has that I can somehow, that I agree with, that I can support, which of my policies he supports, and make it so that there's a kind of smooth transition to, like, some things will come and go, but for more or less, like, we're working together to keep our nation strong. The potholes get filled, the jobs get created, the military is paid for, but we're not going and blowing up people for no reason. What has happened is that we now look at each other as enemies. If I'm red and you're blue, I'm a red American, you're a blue American, you're my enemy. Meanwhile, our real enemies are laughing their fucking asses off watching us bicker on fucking Twitter about whether or not somebody born with a dick is a man or not. It's fucking, it is so appalling and sad and very, very troublesome for me because I feel like it's more obvious than most people realize what's going on. We are clearly being undermined and attacked in many. It is absolutely not a coincidence that our political, economic, educational, military, all of these systems are conveniently crumbling in the same direction for the same reasons at the same time. No fucking way. That is by design. There's a lot of money and a lot of planning going into making that happen. It's
totally by design, but the problem is we don't have an infrastructure to combat that in any way, shape, or form.
How do you mean? Like, what infrastructure?
Well, I mean, we don't have, like, an agile, like, for instance, yeah, like, let's just say, this is an extreme example, but if this was Russia, they'd be like, oh, well, you just don't see that shit anymore. Gone, later, gone. But the thing is, we don't have any sort of way to combat, like, actual issues that we're seeing like that because of, like, the tug of war that we're constantly facing in every election. And because the thing is, the interest isn't for the average individual. The interest is with the team that you're playing for. So it's like there's no actual way to solve the problem. Like, say, like, there's, like, indoctrination, there's the problem with Antifa, there's all these things happening with, like, riots and civil discourse, and it's all, possibly distractions from other things, and it's like, but we don't have a ship that can kind of turn around and combat this. And so there's, like, no, like, that's why we're targeted so much by our enemies with this, like that's why we have these Russian troll farms. That's why we have, because they can do that. You know what I mean? Because we're not totalitarianism where it's like, hey, we can just tell a company, like, we can make Facebook a utility overnight. Nope, we can't. That's not how our system works. We can't make these things happen where it's like, it's weird because I don't know I don't think the solution is more government, but then I don't think the solution is less government, which is literally the definition of, like, what the parties are these days. Yeah,
you know what I mean? And you know what? Like, to be fair, like, you're right. I don't think the solution is more government. I don't think it's less government either. I think the solution comes down to individual responsibility, whether you're a Joe Schmo like you or me, or you're at the fucking tippy top in a fucking politician or a rich CEO or something like that, is to tell the fucking truth, is to go out there and be like, hey, X, Y, and Z is happening. I would so, and sure, their career would end and it'd be hard for them to get a job in the mainstream media again, but I would fucking love any, like, mainstream anchor, whether it's Fox or NBC, left or right, to go up there and to just, like, while they're live, while they have the chance to be like, hey, they actually told me not to say this, but here's XYZ that's going on, you guys need to do it, and then they cut the fucking feed however they do. But it's like, someone's got to have balls and go out there, and
that's been happening in Russia.
Well, isn't that
anchors, like, or like, hey, like, to stop the
Yeah,
war,
no,
and then they get cut.
And that's the last time we hear from them.
Well, that's the interesting
Unfortunately.
thing. Is the same thing happens in America. It's just a little bit more civilized. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much shit that is just not allowed to be said.
yeah.
And if you say it, you get canceled.
Well, and the same thing happens with like the coverage. Like, it's like no one hears about the war in Yemen. Everyone hears about the war in Russia and Ukraine because it might be a threat of nuclear war or whatever. But the same thing's been happening for like 10 years. It's not nuclear, but still it deserves some sort of coverage. But they control it. They're like, that's not sexy.
And
Out.
I mean,
You know, it's like, it's not freedom of speech at all. It's like you can hear about it if you really dig, but the average individual has no. Like, I literally, like 2 years ago, I had no fucking idea that was even a thing. I didn't even know what Yemen was. You know what I mean? So it's like,
I still don't. I think it's a color.
like exactly. Like, you sound like you're British saying yellow. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And, oh god, it's just so frustrating, dude. I hate it because like. I love America. I want us to do well, like as a civilization. But I just feel like there needs to be a certain point where like there's just one guy. Because like I would love for it to fall on the individual, but the problem is, I almost feel like it's a brainwash where it's like people. Like the government has been putting it on as an individual for so long where it's like, hey, if you want to make a difference in this drought, stop using so much of your water. Or if like you want to make a difference in climate change, like start recycling.
But
But just you.
that's
But it's
the
like
corporations
as we
telling
see
you.
the military that provides like the 90% of the pollution that is actually has to do with anything. It's like it's all like they try to shift it on the individual to not place blame on the mass conglomerate like people that are actually doing damage. And I feel like that's the hard part to get around because I'm like to myself, like I remember I had this conversation with you like 2 years ago where I'm like, well, I like being pragmatic because I don't really like to get into this because it's like as long as I can do what is right for myself and I'm happy with myself, then that makes me happy. You know what I mean? But now at this point, it's like, well, that's just not enough. Like I just don't feel like there's a way for. I don't think there's like retribution to be had at like the individual level. Like if you're asking for an individual level of retribution to be had, it would be a revolution in some sort of capacity because that's the only way that. Because right now there's not gonna be one person. There's not gonna be like even Dan Crenshaw wouldn't be like the guy that's like, hey, can we just agree this is all fucking bullshit? And that's what we need. We need one guy that's brave enough to like actually run for president and be like, hey, I think this is all bullshit. I'm gonna do this with all my own money, so you guys can actually believe what the fuck I'm saying, and then maybe we can hope that only 10% of his interests are like bought out. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what makes me really excited about. You probably have seen that. Like I forget the exact number, but Elon Musk just I think it was just today like offered to buy Twitter for like $43 billion or some shit like that. Oh
That'd
man,
be huge.
Well, because that's the thing is that like I think it does come down to the individual, but in reality. The reality is that individuals like you and me and fucking random Joe Schmoes.
No, it's individual elites.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and
which
that's
is why
the problem.
that's what I've been trying to say. It's like it's not red or blue, and I'm not saying it's all elites, but it's the elites. The problem is, and it sucks. I don't want to be like eat the rich kind of people. I'm not saying eat the rich. I'm just saying like realistically, the power that 90% of people have aren't gonna fucking make that much of an impact.
Yeah.
Like the biggest impact you can make is like the fucking Amazon guy that got the union happening, so like a lot of employees can get more benefits. That's like an impact on like his individual level. That's a pretty big impact.
Yeah, and that guy's probably gonna get suicided soon, if anything.
Oh, he's probably Epsteined in the fucking closet, dude. He's fucked.
But that's the thing is I really not to over exaggerate because this is hyperbolic, but like. I really do feel like the course of our history is going to be very, very heavily affected by whether or not this deal goes through and Elon Musk, thank you, sir, Elon Musk is able to take control of Twitter. Because I don't think that he's going to come in and fucking be like, I'm Hitler now. You know what I mean? I think he's just going to let people... He's not going to fucking go full-on pendulum other direction, and now if you're a lefty, you get censored, but the right-wingers don't. I think he's going to actually be pro-free speech and debate.
Yeah, me too. But Elon Musk already won. Because this is the fucking sickest part. Like, so what Elon did is he didn't take a seat on the stockholder.
Cheers.
So cheers, mates. So he couldn't... okay, so... if you're like a board on the stockholders, you have to please the shareholders. So they offered him, because he's the majority owner of Twitter at this point with all the shares that he has. They were like, hey, listen, join our like board of directors. And then Elon's like, okay, maybe. And then was like, actually, no, because if I join the board of directors, I have to do my fiduciary duty and like my pledges to the stockholders, which is to make money. So he was like, not gonna do that because then I can't actually be an instrument for change. So like 7 days later, turned that down and then offered to like buy the entire. He's buying Twitter per share $10 over the actual value of Twitter stock, which puts him in like a checkmate position with the shareholders, because like the people who are currently in charge can't say
too late.
Seriously, they can't say no, because if they say no, they're declining their fiduciary duty to the shareholders. Because right now you have someone who's offering above value price for your product.
Insane above value.
Yeah, insane above value. So the shareholders can be super pissed and be like, why the fuck aren't you taking this offer? Let's make some fucking money. And then Elon knows this, so one of two things either happens. They either give him like a shit ton of control, or they just sell completely. So it's like he literally was like, they tried to like kind of finagle it where like, you have to be our board of directors, you meet with us, and then you'll still have like a lot of the say and blah blah blah. And he's like, no, I don't think so. Like I'm gonna do this. Like it's either I get all say or I'm just gonna fucking plummet your company. Because if Elon pulls out now, Twitter's gonna be non-existent because everyone's gonna pull all their money that they just.
And he has such
because everyone just bought so much Twitter stock after the news that it's like if Elon pulled out right now, then they'd be like, oh, sell Twitter, and then they'd be fucking bankrupt.
Yeah.
So he's literally doing like corporate espionage right now, and it's just for fun because he has 1,000 other things he's doing.
Well, yeah,
it's crazy.
That's the thing is that, like, again, not to be too like hyperbolic or exaggeratory, but like I really feel like the way that this pans out in the next couple weeks is going to have a huge effect on the direction that this country and ultimately the world goes. Because so many people are critical. It's so funny. Here's a little like contradiction. It's with an H, not hyperbole. Hypocritical.
Oh god.
Here's a little example of being a fucking hypocrite that I get from the left, is that the left is so adamant that like it's not the United States' job to tell the world how to be. Like, we're not the leaders of the world. Everybody has equal freedom and choice to be their own leader. But we're also supposed to lead the world in being progressive. So it's like, well, we're not progressive enough. The world won't follow suit. It's like, so which is it? We're only leaders when it comes to fucking making bad economic and social decisions. That's when we need to be leaders. But when it comes to fucking doing what's good for the citizens, that's when it's time for us to fucking back off. Anyways,
and also the only time we're ever a leader, like, or claim to be a leader, is just for interests that aren't even like for our citizens whatsoever. Like, it's just so stupid.
Well, do you mean like Yemen?
Well, if you want me to tell you again, there's actually a war in Yemen that's like not really cool right now.
Yeah, Grant, as we already went over, Grant is pro war in Yemen.
Yes, exactly. I love how they kill babies. It's awesome. He
hates Yemenites. No, but what was it? The reason I bring that up is that the only reason I even said that is because I personally, I'm a biased American because I've only ever lived in America. I only know what it's like to be a Californian American, right? Yep. So I can't sit here and say whether or not we should be leading the world. But my buddy who lives in New Zealand, Caleb, Fatty Fists, he said this on his own. I didn't fucking convince him to say this. He says that, like, yeah, like, one of the things that is that, like, we're always kind of, from New Zealand's perspective, like, we're always looking to see what America does, because whatever America does, the rest of the world follows. I didn't fucking say that. Someone across the world said that to me, and many other people have said that. So I'm
relatively small island.
Yeah, I'm not sitting here making the argument that that's the way it should be. All I'm saying is that there are many people, including people that I know directly, who say that's the way it fucking is.
Yeah.
So
Chinese people listen to Drake. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the point is that whether or not free speech is important in America is going to affect whether or not freedom of speech is important everywhere. Yeah. And that's why I'm like, so, you know, we're coming down to the individual, like the individual elite. It's not like there's no elite individuals who are out there
who have concerns and positions similar to what we're saying right now. It's just that if they said it, it would be censored. That's the fucking problem. That's what's so difficult about creating change, is that even if powerful, rich people of influence felt the same way as us, if they expressed it, it would be hidden.
The thing too, like I mean, and I don't know if this is true at all, but like just where my brain goes is, if you're an elite on either side of any spectrum, I don't think freedom of speech usually works well for you anyways, because you're usually doing something that some portion of the population's gonna be outraged about that you would love to silence. You know what I mean? Like, because like how you become an elite is you know, you're burning some bridges along the way. Like Elon Musk didn't become where he's at without, you know, fucking over some people, I'm sure.
Especially, you know what I mean? Jeff Bezos.
Oh,
like,
those people
same.
I've stepped on.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it's like
Wasted.
I don't know if I don't know if being a fucking elite and then also freedom of speech like go hand in hand or are mutually exclusive. But it kind of seems like to some capacity, like I'm sure Jeff Bezos would love to shut the fuck. Well, he's not CEO anymore, but whoever the current Amazon, yeah, he was like, I'm good. They're about to unionize.
I went to space.
I'm dipping.
I
But
got
like
my
that's
money.
what same with like Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks, and like
he came back, right?
He came back just to fight the union.
Wow.
Because he's really good at fighting unions, apparently.
Fuck.
And that's the thing. It's like those people would love if freedom of speech didn't happen for the union workers. And on the other side of the token, like, it's like there's always a, like, you always want the bad reviews to go away. You know what I mean? So it's like when you're creating something, because no one creates a $1 billion industry without
complete moral.
Well, just some sort of like exploitation of some, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
At least in the system that we're in right now, where it's like you have to exploit something if it's not raw materials or people or some sort of, because that's what gives you a competitive advantage, is you exploit some sort of technology or something of that nature in order to get there. And then there's going to be people who are not for that exploitation that you did, or competitors that are going to badmouth you in order to get their competitive advantage. And like I feel like in that sense, it's like for a lot of these elitist people, it's like hard to be a proponent of full freedom of speech, because they don't want that to backfire on themselves at some point down the road. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, and don't get me wrong, I haven't done thorough deep dive like in research on Elon Musk's background and history and character or anything like that, but I think he's a good example to point to, because he, at least from what I have heard, he works very, very hard to completely absolve himself of any kind of criticism.
Yeah.
Like that's why he doesn't own any property.
Yeah.
Like he specifically like doesn't own anything and owns just as little as he has to be able to like function.
He's the best example, but I don't know any others.
But all you need is
agree.
one. There wasn't fucking 7 different Jesus Christs. There was one.
That's true.
You know, like let's
That
take
we know of, I mean.
that we know of. Yeah, but let's
All right,
let's
Elon for
suspend it.
president.
Yeah.
But my point, I'm not trying to be an Elon dick rider. He again, he's just like how George Soros is the placeholder for fucking Darth Vader, and Elon Musk will be the placeholder for fucking Luke Skywalker. I'm not saying that either one of those are those individuals, but the point is that like all it takes is
One elite.
a brave, well equipped, like all the things had to happen. You had to have the right genetics, the right situation, the right luck, everything had to line up perfectly. But all it takes is one person to be like, "Hey, this is the truth." And like I feel like Joe Rogan is a good example of like a microcosm of this. Is that like he's been mired in controversy the last several months, and he has not lost any traction. And if anything, he's gained it because his followers, the people who know him. Yeah. I've listened to every single one of his podcasts for like no joke, like probably like 3 or 4 years now, maybe more.
Yeah.
Like I'm very, not on a personal level, but like I know what this guy thinks and how he communicates and how like
you can almost guess what he's gonna say to certain guess, because you're like, I just know where he stands on this, so I feel like this question's me next.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm like, dude, I just wish there was someone like Joe that would actually like, you know, be more of a titan in that regard.
I think that's Elon. I think
you might be. I hope it is. But then at the same time, it's like it sucks because like I'm completely down for it to be Elon, but it would be nice also if somehow it was like a common person that was like, you know what I mean? Like I always had this like dream of like just this random dude that was like so popular and just had like that ran for president with no sort of backing or professional experience, but was just like what Donald Trump wanted to be without the $1 billion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that, like it was.
What Donald Trump wanted to be without being Donald Trump.
Could you imagine any sort of president that had like an 80% approval rating? Like it just doesn't exist because of the parties system that we're in. But
50% even like.
No, but 50% is like whatever. Like 80%. Like I want someone like I don't. It's not like I want someone to rule forever, but it would be so nice just for 8 years to have someone that, you know, no matter if you love him or hate him, had to mutually respect and were proud to lead your country, which is like something that we've been lacking for
decades.
And that's
I don't even know. I don't know when the
I
last
think
time
it
that was.
takes somebody to do the fucking Bill Murray line, to come up and be like, you know what? Maybe I don't understand completely, but I can tell that's bullshit. That guy's full of shit. I want somebody to fucking. I want somebody. They don't even, because you won't get to the president at this point, but somebody to have like the power to walk into that fucking House of Representatives, congressman, be like, you're full of shit. You're full of shit. Like, look him in the eye. Like, you're a fucking liar. You're a liar. We all know it. We all know it.
No, dude, that's exactly what I was going to say. We need someone like Teddy Roosevelt that runs out the White House screaming, I've been poisoned. You know what I mean? That's the kind of energy you need. You need someone that's like so dramatic that's like, bro, all these guys are full of shit. I'm going to convince the entire public that these guys are full of shit. And we're going to fucking either clean house or like clean up their acts. And honestly, like, it's like the Nancy Pelosi shit. Like, they shouldn't be allowed to participate in the market. They shouldn't be allowed to like have any sort of benefit other than the ones that are given to them by the position that they fucking applied for. Like, if they want to make millions of dollars, create a business, because that's how you do it. If you want to please the people and be constituent for the people, it's like, bruh.
You don't get to do both.
You don't get to do both. You don't get to be a corrupt fucking... Like, you go to Mexico for that. You want to join the fucking cartel? Like, what the fuck are we? Like, it's so annoying, dude. Oh God, it makes me so angry. Because I'm like, what the fuck? Why can't we just have some people that are like... Nancy Pelosi's like... Well, I think we should all be able to participate in the market. I'm like, oh, really? You do? Even
I'm
though
not
you
being bought up by like a major corporation to make their stock go up that you just bought on a low ball.
Dude, and you literally
you
are
fucking bitch.
part of the entire cog that dictates law that affects business. Thus, you know what decisions are made in Congress
I know
that are going
gas
to
is about
negatively
to
affect
increase. Let's
certain
just buy in
businesses.
fucking
Bro,
ExxonMobil right now.
And speak of a fucking cloak, they're like, well, Elon tweets and Dogecoin goes up. I'm like, you fuckers bet on things you know are gonna win and make millions. And
you know he bets, or you know he's about to say some dumb shit, so you buy in, and then like on public you're like, don't buy into crypto. Like, that's just like not safe.
It's ridiculous. They're like, oh, we know gas is gonna be more expensive because we just raised this bill that's gonna. And dude, have you been listening to Breaking Points at all?
No, not
They
recently.
were talking so much shit because they're like, oh, this Putin gas hike. They literally said that in the news. Where it's like, the gas prices happened before the invasion of Ukraine, and now you're just scapegoating everything that's wrong with America on Putin, and it's fucked up, misleading, and corrupt to do so. Because the fact of the matter is, inflation was already occurring before Russia decided to do some fucked up shit.
They're creeping up on gas prices, I noticed.
Yeah, already. It's like, why are they pretending like they weren't? It's so stupid.
What's so funny, have you heard about that narrative that, and this, oh God, we're going to cover a lot of ground here, but one of the reasons that Putin stated why he was invading Ukraine is because that the Ukraine allegedly is like this like pro-Nazi, like neo-Nazi regime. And, oh man, so, okay.
I have something to add on this because I also...
We'll add on to it so I can see how it fits in here.
Okay, so I did hear, like, there was this interview with Zelensky or whatever where they were like, hey, you know, one of the claims was that, you know, Russia says that you have neo-Nazis that you're kind of like harboring and that they actually joined your militia. And then his response was like, literally not denying anything, saying like, there are not they're neo-Nazis, but they're like they have joined our militia and like was like implying that because they joined their militia that somehow they're like not
neo-Nazis anymore. Yeah.
Is that kind of where you were going? Because I heard that where I was like,
well, okay.
So what does that mean?
So
is that even true?
So here's I'll try.
Obviously, it's bullshit on Russia's side.
Here's the thing. We like to think that.
Maybe we're wrong.
I'll try and keep this like chronologically, like how I learned about it. But so the first thing that I heard was that Russia was, amongst other reasons, but Russia was claiming that one of the main reasons they were invading Ukraine is because Ukraine is known for corruption and affiliation with Nazism.
Which is not okay to say for some reason now, because we're pro-Ukraine. You can't point out that for some reason that they were corrupt for many, many years.
Yeah, it's not like we can point out that CNN, who's pro-Ukraine now, has many fucking articles just from like 2014 saying how corrupt Ukraine is.
Was that on Joe or was that on fucking Breaking Points? Because they said it on Breaking Points where they're like, oh, that's what it was. The Candace Owen controversy. Did you hear about that?
No.
The New York Times went after Candace Owen, being like, "Hey, can we not pretend that like Ukraine isn't also?"
Yes, yeah.
And then they were like, "Well, can you point to why you're saying that they were corrupt?" And then she sent a bunch of links to New York Times articles.
Your articles
2 years ago
from
saying,
your organization.
Yeah. Well, that is fucking the most baller move I've ever heard of in my life.
I just want to point out, just to before we get into this whole thing, two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like I can.
Good example. We would still be upset if.
Don't look at me.
No. We would. Hey, say Canada took over Mexico. We would be upset and be like, "Hey, listen, it's not right for Canada to take over Mexico." But then at the same time, there'd be people that are like, well, Mexico had cartel issues. They were pretty corrupt. And I'm like, yeah, but also they're getting massacred in the streets. The Canadians are putting maple syrup in their assholes. And it just doesn't seem right. And it's like, I see that, but...
so two bad things can be true at the same time. Right. They don't necessarily cancel each other out.
Yeah.
So Russia set up this narrative, and this I find it so fucking fascinating because you guys know we live in a time and a culture where like if whoever is the first one to report something, the first one to speak is assumed to be correct.
Yeah.
So that's why I should report that like Grant robbed me. It's like, well, no, I was stealing back the thing he stole first. It's like, well, I reported it first, so Grant's the robber. Grant's the one who broke the law. I reported it first, so therefore I'm right. What Russia wanted to do was claim that they were invading the Ukraine to prevent Nazism, whatever the fuck that is, at this point. Because
war on drugs, right?
No, there actually is. To be fair, there is a place that we're getting for that, how Nazism still exists. But Russia was claiming that Nazism was like a prevalent thing in the Ukraine. That's why they were invading. And the Biden administration, to be fair, just to give the devil their due, the Biden administration, their intelligence caught wind of that and knew that that was going to be the narrative that was pushed globally. So they came out in front of it and said, like before those claims were made public, before like Russia was like really, really pushing to the global stage that Ukraine is full of Nazis, the United States came out and NATO came out and be like, they're getting on the border. Russia's on the border. They're gonna invade Ukraine. They're gonna invade Ukraine. They're gonna invade Ukraine.
Real
and
fast,
then
though,
Russia was like, no, we're not. No, we're not.
If you've ever played like Civilization, like the video game, that's exactly what the fucking AI does. Like they line up at your border, and you have to decide like, oh shit, like I can see they're about to invade me.
Well, so here's the thing: is that in Civilization real life, what happens is that the guys lining up on the border are like, I know just what we're gonna do. Right before we're lining up, we're saying it's a routine exercise, and right before we actually invade, that's when we drop the bomb. They're full of Nazis, and everybody in
you denounce them, and then it's
So many people across the world, especially America, they're just triggered by the N word. Nazi.
Let me ask you.
He's a Nazi.
I thought it was
He's a
the
Nazi.
other one.
Well, that one's a good
Cruz,
one too.
do you think there's Nazis there?
He's what I'm getting to.
No, I want to know.
You gotta let him finish. I interrupted him.
Okay, well, while I'm bringing this up, could you pull up over here so we can look at it in a second? Look up AZOV, Azov Battalion, Ukraine Azov Battalion. Just look that up. So what happened? This is fact. This is like.
Can you put on DuckDuckGo?
Yeah, fuck Google. In the early 2010s, when Russia was starting to expand into Crimea and shit like that, Ukraine put out a mass notice to its people saying, hey, Russia's fucking with us. We need help from the people. Start raising citizen militias to help supplement our army. So, like, you're not a part of the army, but if you guys create your own militias and train, you can help the army and fight alongside us.
Yeah.
One of the citizen militias that was created was the Azov Battalion.
Yeah.
You want it on Vice or?
Just go to images. I just need images.
Okay.
AZOV. AZOV. Sorry. Azov Battalion. So, and again, I'm a little drunk right now, so I'm not doing the best job recounting this. Right there, you see that?
First one?
Yep, that Z, the Z image right there. That is a modified Nordic symbol. That was basically just like how the Nazis took the Buddhist swastika and turned it 45 degrees and made it their own. Turn that 45 degrees. That is a symbol that was used for the German Nazi military, I think, like Panzer Division or something like that. That is a Nazi symbol.
It looks like the fucking New York Yankees symbol.
They're trying to say, and look at it. I mean,
you can see it, yeah.
what they're trying to say is that it's NI. I forget what NI is supposed to stand for. It's like national inter something or something like that. It is a fact that in the aftermath of World War II, there were plenty of Nazis who went to the Ukraine and lived out the rest of their lives there. They died of old age and had kids and had grandkids. It is a fact that of the many militias that were created in the early 2010s, one of them was the Azov Battalion, which was comprised heavily of Nazi sympathizers. Either people directly descended from Nazis or people who are ingratiated with descendants of Nazis.
I have a quick question that I want to run by you. So, how do you feel about this symbol? Like, do you think this is like Nazi propaganda related? Like, this shouldn't be a symbol that, like, you know what I mean?
Well, here's how I feel about the symbol. I spent there was a night a few weeks ago where I was like really digging into this, and I was like, okay, I feel like someone's lying to me. So I gotta look into. I read all CNN's articles. I read on the Wikipedia. I looked at the different fucking images. Went deep into this shit. That is absolutely
we got him.
That is.
He's doing. Oh wait, no, I thought he was doing the salute.
Well, so you put something in your hand, and it looks like you're not doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm just kidding. That's just a joke. No, but the Azov Battalion was compromised heavily. The majority of the Azov Battalion was Nazi and neo-Nazi sympathizers.
Mm-hmm.
Just as history, as you would imagine, always unfolds. So this is early 2010s. They don't exist. Russia's fucking with Ukraine. Ukraine says, hey, citizens, create individual militias and we'll help you.
That guy. That's straight up Nazi.
Yeah, we will support you guys. You're going to help out the Ukraine, the actual Ukraine military. The Azov Battalion was so efficient in war. They did such a good job that they were then incorporated into the Ukrainian military. The Ukrainian military, 2015, 16, something like that. So they did such a good job resisting Russia that the Ukraine was like, you guys fucking rock. We're officially making your citizen militia an official part of our military. So now you took all these citizens, the citizen militia, who are Nazis and neo-Nazi sympathizers, and they are now officially part of they are government employees now. They are military employees. Over the course of the last 5 to 7 years, the Ukrainian government allegedly has been working to get that out. So the guy who started the Azov Battalion created an Azov. He was actually forced to retire because the Ukrainian government adopts the Azov Battalion as part of their military, and they say, hey, such as I forget his name. Is that I can't see his name.
Berninsky?
I think that, yeah.
Who are we talking about? The president?
Yeah, the founder of the Azov Battalion was a known, adamant, outspoken neo-Nazi. So they were like, okay, you're not allowed to, now that
it says a politically correct one, white nationalist.
Yeah, it's white nationalist. So now that your battalion is officially part of the Ukrainian military, you're not allowed to be in charge anymore because we can't have some fucking Nazi a part of our military. So he got ousted. So then he created the Azov political party, which eventually developed into like which eventually evolved into some other political party. Right now, I think there's a different name for it. But so the Azov Battalion was a group of citizens who were pro-Nazi, pro-neo-Nazis. This is all fact.
Yeah.
They get incorporated into the government and the military. They kick the commander out because he's a Nazi sympathizer. He creates the Azov political party, which he then renames something else, the like Economic League or the Economic Party or so the People's Party, some shit like that. The national, I think it's like the Nationalist Party or something like that, Ukrainian nationalism. And so over time, what's happened is that they went from being like close to 100% Nazi, neo-Nazi sympathizers to like they start adding normal citizens, normal militia people into there, and then drown it down. But in the last, I think it was 2018 or 2019, maybe it was 2020, they did like a survey. Somewhere between 10 and 20% of the Azov Battalion like admitted in a poll that they are still pro-Nazi, pro-neo-Nazi sympathizers.
Yeah. And I mean,
and their flag.
Those are the ones that took the poll and admitted.
Yeah.
You could easily lie on that.
Exactly. So that's the 10 to 20% that were fucking so adamant that they were honest about it. Like,
can I ask you a somewhat related but off-related question is, comparing the Azov Battalion flag to, like, the fucking Confederate flag that's, like, still used today for certain things. Like, what are your thoughts on that? It's, like, so... Because it's very similar in a lot of senses, where it's like something that like a lot of people have with pride from being like raised by grandparents of that. Like, for instance, I talked to this guy from Tennessee the other day, and I was like, "Hey, my name's Grant." Sometimes I'll be like, "It's Grant," like grant you a wish, because people think it's Greg or they can't hear me sometimes. And then they'll like from Tennessee or like from the South, will be like, "Oh, like Ulysses S. Grant," and I'll talk to a guy named Lee, and he'll say that. Like it's like literally like I'm
northern born.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah, you like
nah, man. I'm
I literally I've been called a Yankee. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, wow, it's been like so long and this is still a thing. And then also there's like all that talk about how like fucking damaging like
Major Dixieland. I didn't know of that.
The Confederate flag and people having the Confederate flag is because like the conversation of like whether this is like offensive or not, or like why is it the people who do have pride for it, why do you have pride for it? Because it's like you lost. So I'm like always curious because like that's like something like, for instance, Haley's boyfriend, the military dude, has like he's from Florida, not even like that.
It's not like the
it
South?
wasn't the South that was participating back then, but for some reason has like the Confederate flag as like a license plate.
But you're Florida.
But you're Florida, and where it's like there's like in the South, there's still some sort of like pride, or like there's a lot of people that still have Southern flags, wear it as like a shit like that.
Can I one up you real fast?
One up me, dude.
So
you know what? Two up me.
I only just found this out like maybe last week. I heard about it somewhere. Besides like Julian being a city in Southern California, being founded by Confederates.
Yeah.
I guess there's a whole like fucking city in like Brazil who was like the Brazilian like whoever dictator or president, I don't know, was like, hey, you guys lost, but I like you guys. Come over to like Brazil. I'll pay for your like transportation. And they founded a town.
The Confederates or the Nazis?
Confederates founded like a full-on town. Yeah, and like they did pretty well for themselves for losing a war with the U.S. They found a home in like Brazil. Well, But now it's like the same symbol, the whatever, like...
Well, yeah, and it's like the same thing where it's like, my thing is like, because I don't really care, but like also, I look at that and I'm like, well, it's not like the flag where, remember like the 13 colonies flag where it's like a circle of stars?
Yeah.
Where like, that symbolized like history.
That's a circle.
Of like our 13 colonies becoming a nation. But the Confederate flag is literally, like, I don't see any other meaning of that flag other than what was the Civil War. And maybe I don't know the history, but it's like...
I know, there's like the whole
case what I mean? But there's like a
this
big
was like
chunk
a battalion's
of people...
flag and blah, 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 but that's not the point anymore. It changed as a symbol.
Or also there was a lot of people that's like, well, just because, it wasn't all about slavery, there was a lot of brave people who fought on the other side because of other
Like
reasons.
Lee,
Yeah,
like,
okay,
he
hold
was-
on.
Lee
Let's-
was, like he had to go on the south because of like family and like you
Yeah,
know, state.
like,
Let's reel it
brothers
back in
fighting
here.
sisters
We're
and
all
shit,
we're all
like-
over the place here.
I
First
know,
of all, we
sorry.
started from the Azov Battalion. Grant was
So I guess
asking a
to bring
question
it
about
back-
it. Just to bringing
Yeah.
it back here.
It's almost
like
the
it's very
lesser
similar.
evil.
That's why I see the parallel where I'm like, I see how this is obviously
Well,
probably
first,
bad,
just to address
but-
that right away, I understand the parallel you're drawing. Here's the difference: is that there is no officially we are a part of the United States military that has a flag that's the Confederate flag.
Yeah,
That wouldn't be allowed.
right.
This is being allowed. That's their
So this
official
is definitely
flag.
worse,
So
right?
Just to answer your question there,
Yeah.
how do I feel about comparing them? Is that like what the Azov Battalion is to the Ukrainian government and their militia is that as though there was a citizens militia of people from the south whose flag was the Confederate flag, and then they did so well in whatever
Yeah.
military conflict, the United States government was like, hell yeah, you guys are great, you're officially part of the military, and they kept the Confederate
it's
flag as their
similar-
symbol.
it's
That
similar-
wouldn't happen.
Well, it's similar in the sense that it's not happening in the sense that they're like having the flags out like the Ukraine is, but a lot of these military dudes have it all over their contraband, all over their cars.
But
all
it's
over
not the
whatever.
official flag of their
No,
battalion.
I
That's like there
I
being a
understand that.
battalion
There's-
that's a part of the United States military. That their
Right.
official
But the
visual
similarity
thing
is like, oh, you guys were so badass at being in a war that like we allow this kind of behavior regardless. You know what
Well,
I
fuck,
mean?
maybe if the South won,
well,
we would let them in our
well,
fucking
just
they
to add on
suck,
to
dude.
Grant,
They
like
fucking got
they're
beat.
essentially fighting like you know they're essentially fighting for like you know their whole like countrymen as a whole right now. So it's like the lesser evil.
Yeah.
Kind of how like we did team up with like Stalin to defeat Hitler. Like
Yeah, even though
That wasn't
Stalin
ideal.
arguably worse.
Yeah, look, so
The enemy,
it's like
my enemy is my friend.
that's
Exactly.
like having England try to conquer us again, like mid Civil War or shortly after the Civil War, and us being like, oh shit, you know, I know we were kind of against you Confederate boys a second ago, but you fought pretty well, so you're allowed into the United States military. Sure, we'll let you use your flag, but that.
But
My point being is that didn't happen, and that wouldn't happen. That's
Yeah.
not going on in the United States. We're like
and the U.S. has like a very like weird like prideful history. Like you know any part of the U.S. history is like in most American eyes is like so like glorified and like
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Do you guys ever feel like that? Like there's a fair amount of indoctrination or just like
I was gonna say
not
yeah.
indoctrination, but what's the word? Propaganda of the U.S. where it's like, dude, come on.
Yeah, like in
You
middle
know,
school,
like,
hold
early
on, what?
high school, you learn of like the Union and how like,
Well, like,
Abe
the-
Lincoln
our
saved
world-
the
Can I get a
Union.
specific here?
yeah, our world.
Do you guys ever
history-
feel like there's like propaganda sometimes?
I mean, like the way we're taught, like where it's like we focus so much on American history and so little on the world history, where it's
Yeah.
like other countries when they teach American history, they like teach American propaganda of this like idea that whatever. I mean, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what the case is, but like it's, it's
imagine
weird.
like Thailand like trying to go over like history or like Vietnam trying to go over history and it's like
It's
yeah
so
like those
interesting,
Americans
dude.
kind of fucked us over for a minute.
But then at the same time, like no one can step because they all love our music and movies.
Well, and also, I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, yeah, fucking, we have a lot to provide. When's the last time you watched a Vietnamese
And
movie?
what's even weirder too is like all the innovation, like 90% of
food.
innovation comes from us. It's so weird. Like all the products, like obviously we don't make them, but like we invent them, and that's what's so strange. I'm like, is it just because of like the capitalistic nature of our like, and because that's kind of what makes us the best is we make all the shit.
Yeah, ingenuity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
That's it.
pro-capitalist thing is that like when
It's so crazy.
Show me a fucking non-capitalist entity, country or whatever that has produced anything like
Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, like
Just kidding.
yeah,
Gucci.
yeah.
Volkswagen,
I'm pretty sure we could do without that.
I'll say Toyota. I think Toyota's
Toyotas. There you go.
Yeah, but they've embraced capitalism at that point. The
for sure.
Toyotas used to fucking suck.
Yeah, they did.
I forget. I mean, I wasn't around, but I remember hearing recently that like Toyotas when they first came out, they were terrible.
Yeah,
They were like they weren't good with the cold. They would break down and shit. Like it was when they started being more like kind of embracing capitalism
After the gas crisis.
that they surpassed us car wise. When they first started off, when they were like way more socialist, communist, their products sucked and they didn't get any sales because no one would buy it because the product sucked. So then, in a true capitalist fashion, they made a better product at a cheaper price and outcompeted us. And now Toyotas are a household name that a lot of people own.
Yeah, they're amazing. I love them.
I wouldn't say like
I don't have
Japan
one,
was ever like socialist or communist. They were very much just like old school like feudalism, and then kind of like introduced to the West, but
bombed
then-
into
but-
capitalism.
Sure.
Yeah, then they were like "fuck you guys," but then they were like, "Hey,
Sure, okay, so
we
not
kinda
communists, but they were part of the Axis powers. They were
fascist.
totalitarian.
Yeah.
You don't get ingenuity
There you
in
go,
a
yeah.
totalitarian system. So okay, I misspoke. Not socialist communist, but you're not like for example, when Nazi Germany became like when Hitler took power and created the Third Reich, and like it's a Nazi totalitarian society now, they created the Volkswagen, the people's car. Like that was a part of ingenuity. And the thing that was going on was they got a bunch of people to like the German citizens to invest a shit ton of their money in like bonds and stocks they were basically taking their wages and investing them in the company because they were
you don't hear
guaranteed
that anymore. Like buy war bonds. Like that was such an old.
because it doesn't fucking
worthless.
work. Yeah, that's the thing is it's bullshit. It's a Ponzi scheme. They were told that if you take X amount, like certain amount of percentage of your wages and your earnings working for the Volkswagen company and producing cars, you will get a car as it like for free in like 5 to 10 years.
But also
none
pay
of them
your
did.
taxes. It's like taxes and that.
So what happened is that they start giving all of their time, all of their energy, all of their money into this company because it's like, well, there's the people's car. If I work hard enough, I'll get my own car. I'll own my own In-N-Out one day. Then the country
50
went to
horsepower
war,
car.
and then they're like, hey, by the way, you know all those cars you were supposed to get? We're gonna make tanks and planes instead. And then the Reich collapsed, and all of the time and hours and energy and effort that all these people invested thinking they'd get a car in the next 5
All
to
the
10
money
years.
you invested, you could have just bought the car outright.
Yeah, or fucking bought some bread, you know, or bought some nicer clothes or something
Some
like
warm
that.
German
you
beer.
can't buy anything outright.
These totalitarian, even if so, a totalitarian society might start off whether it's communist, fascist, socialist. They might have some momentum going into them, where they're dumping money into the people to generate like morale and productivity, but it never lasts. It's all short term. You know, like even though it's imperfect, capitalism isn't perfect. Like it still perpetuates itself and lasts long term, where it's like it's one of those systems that's like, look, I know I'm not perfect, but I'm always striving to get better. So over the course of 100, 200, 300 years, I'm way better at the 300-year mark than I was at the 0-year mark.
Yeah.
Totalitarianism, socialism, communism, they say within 100 years, we're going to be 1,000 levels better. But they don't make it to 100 years. They make it to 35 or 40 or
And I would
50
like
and then
to-
get embroiled in war and then fall apart because they can't afford it.
I would like to say I love capitalism. I just don't love how our political system is tied to capitalism. Because I think capitalism is the answer. The problem is I don't think it should be involved in politics.
What Peter Schiff would say to that is that that's not true capitalism. True capitalism would be barred from as soon as the government starts getting involved with the like the high ups, like the CEOs, and money starts going back and forth, like super PACs and shit.
Yeah.
This is no longer capitalism.
Right.
This is like a mixture of like capitalism
oligarchy.
and like capitalism,
Well, it's just
oligarchy, which
corruption.
is essentially is tyranny.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got an oligarchy, that's tyranny.
And that's how I feel too. I'm like, and to a certain extent, like I really do think like the state system has it right, where it's like if you give most of the power to the states, then they'll be the best equipped to handle the problems that's in their
Because
state.
it's much more localized.
Yeah, and we're a big ass fucking country, so
Huge.
it's like
Texas alone is
different-
like all of Europe.
Yeah, different states have different issues. Let's just paint a spade, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like the problem is so annoying because it's like I always go back, dude. I just really think you gotta get the fucking money out of politics because that's the problem. Because
That would be true
100%.
capitalism.
I know, and that's what I love. Like, dude, I fucking majored in business and marketing. Like, I love I love the idea that like you can, like realistically anyone can make a lot of money and live a very successful life and not come from a rich background. Like as annoying as that sounds, and I know there's people defying odds and stuff like that, but it's like but it's like realistically it is true. Like anyone can make it from anywhere. Like it might be harder for people, that's true too.
Oh, the
like,
hurdles.
Literally,
Always going to be there.
One guy could have bought one Bitcoin in 2012 and now is a millionaire.
Well, here's the thing. I just want to point, because I'm in total agreement with everything you just said. I just want to point out the thing that most people get fucking twisted. Most people think that when you claim anybody in capitalism, anybody can make it. They think that is like, okay, so if 100 people try and they give it their all 100 of them will be millionaires. It's like, no, it's not that. It's that all 100 of them had an equal chance of becoming a millionaire. Whereas if you're like in a totalitarian, communist, socialist society, 0% of them have a chance. Even if 1 out of 100, that's one more person than 0.
Yeah.
You know, like so like it's there is no perfect system.
Poor people have iPhones, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that's like a huge milestone, but it's like that is a fact. That's like, it's not like like most people aren't going to bed hungry, and that's a win. Because in socialism, most people go to bed hungry.
Yeah, because 0 out of 100 have the opportunity to fucking create any kind of growth or prosperity.
And that's the thing where it's like, oh god, that's why I love it. Because like I mean, obviously, I'm like one of those fucking douches that gets so hyped on just like people fucking having success stories and things like that. Like it makes me fucking super motivated. But like it's cool that like any individual could just turn around their life at any given point and just become whatever they want to become. Like fucking, if you look at the KFC guy, what's his name, Colonel Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't become a millionaire until he was like 62 years old, and he came up with the fucking 13 spice ingredient for his fucking fried chicken. But that's still true today. Like as fucking like people want to be like, I'm too old to do this. I started too late. Like I'm so behind. But the reality is,
like Morgan Freeman was
you can
late.
become a millionaire in 1 year.
Yeah.
If you have some sort of idea, it's like so crazy. Like that's the craziest part about it. It's like,
It pains me to say it, but like even like the influencers on like Instagram, TikTok, they jumped on it early on and like they worked their asses off. Doesn't appear like work. I mean, it's just dancing videos, but you know the editing and having to do.
And also, it's like that's talent, you know. Like
I couldn't.
Not everyone can do
dance,
that.
Yeah.
Not everyone has the balls to actually do it on a platform where you might get fucking
judged by millions. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like so because, hey, say you're a better dancer, but you didn't have the self-esteem to show it. Then, sorry, she's the better dancer or he's the better dancer because that's what I see.
Yeah, that's what people see. That's what
Yeah.
People like that, and then they gain a following, they get better, and corporations notice them and then they get sponsored.
Yeah, you can't even hate on those types of people because it's like, well, they did something, you know.
Exactly, dude. They put themselves out there.
It's like that thing that people say. It's like you're never like if you never ask, the answer is always no.
Yep.
It's the same with those people where it's like
that mentality. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you never do anything, the answer is always no. You're never gonna do anything.
Mm-hmm.
All right, just to wrap this up because I hate loose ends. We're all over the place here. Grant, make it quick.
Now.
Make it quick. Keep it within a couple minutes here. But can you summarize for us how the mortgage business has shrunk 40% in the last year?
All right, so now that we're going full circle, the reason it's shrunk is because everyone has 3% interest rates, which means they don't want 6% interest rates, which is what I'm offering them. So the only market is if they want cash out of their home. And that's the only thing available. And then on top of that, it's shrunk because there's not enough inventory. So the people that even want to purchase houses, there's not enough houses. So, thus, therefore, moreover,
So about
Beyond a shadow of a
about
doubt.
40% of the people that you could have done business with a year ago are no longer willing or able to do business with you.
That is correct.
Because it would,
Okay.
it would hurt them.
It would be either unbeneficial for them, which would make me a hell of a salesman if I could get them to take
Go
leave a 2% and get a 6%, unless they were getting cash out, which is why the only business that is left is cash out,
Yeah.
because everyone always needs cash, and sometimes they're willing to pay for it with an interest rate. However, the rate and term market is just non-existent because we're coming from 2% to 6%, so you're not going to be able to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's how.
All
That's
right.
why.
We'll readdress that in the next episode. We'll give it a re-listen and see if we can add some more details to this for you folks, because I am basically in the same boat I was 2 hours ago at the beginning of this podcast. I don't understand it, but I can tell it's bullshit.
As a renter.
As a renter, yeah.
All right.
Which, to be fair, I shouldn't even have fucking voting privilege.
As
to be
a
honest.
renter whose like rent is less than like most people's mortgages.
Look, I'm an
No,
old
it's more than most people's mortgages.
Yeah, my bad. More.
I'm an
Grand
old
Gamma
school guy. Consider me traditional. I only think that white property owning men should be able to vote. So that excludes me because I don't own property. I fit the other criteria.
Yeah.
So
So don't worry, I'll give you a good price on my rental.
all right. Hey, us whites got to stick together, man.
Just as long as it's not like in Chicago.
Okay, so there's that. Next up here, I'll try and make this quick.
They have guns, but it's illegal. How did that happen?
Early 2010s, Russia's attacking Ukraine. Ukraine says, hey, anybody who's willing to help out. A bunch of white nationalists and Nazis, descendants of Nazis and pro-Nazi people, they create a militia. They create the Azov Battalion under the leadership of such and such. I forget his name. They do so well in the military conflicts that happen over the course of those years. Ukraine military and government are impressed with them. They adopt the Azov Battalion, which is known to have pro-white nationalist Nazi sympathies. They kick the leader out. He creates an Azov political party, which is then renamed to something else, like the Ukraine Nationalists or something like that. Last survey within the last couple years said that somewhere between 10 and 20% of the people of the Azov Battalion, which is like the main like upper battalion of like the Ukrainian military at this point, are openly have neo-Nazi sympathies, which probably makes it more like 30 to 40% because most people would hide that shit.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of truth to that. There is a little bit of truth to those. Here's the problem, though, is that we live in such an age of misinformation and like deception that like two things can be true at the same time. There can be a significant proportion of the Ukrainian people and military who have problematic Nazi sympathies, and Russia can also be wrong for invading Ukraine. That's all I'm saying. Ukraine can be corrupt, and Russia can
killed anyone.
Yeah.
Now Russia is gonna kill you for being a bigot.
Yeah. You guys can be corrupt, and Russia can also be corrupt.
Also,
Like
if
they're
you're-
like pointing at each other like
Yeah.
it's just that guy. It's like nah, y'all are both fucking racist,
and
fucked
also
up freaks.
we know that this is just like a pissing contest with Russia. Like Russia is just, we know that they just want to like kind of be like the big guys, you know? Because it's like, dude, if you had a peaceful bigot, why are you invading?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we have peaceful bigots here. We don't fucking murder them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's the peaceful bigots who make policy at this point. That's our
Shit.
problem. Fucking maybe Russia should invade us.
All right, I'll fucking shoot that to this.
Hey,
Shoot
hey,
this to that.
hey, cheers.
Cheers, man.
Which brings me to my third and final point here. We'll end this podcast on a lighter note than all the BS we've been talking about today. Have both of you guys seen Book of Boba Fett?
I actually haven't.
Oh, god damn it.
Good?
It's going to be difficult
Get
to
out.
have this conversation now.
Go
I was
refinance
assuming-
someone.
I haven't even watched all the rest of Mandalorian.
Oh.
Oh my god.
Is it really? It's good?
So I'm about to murder Grant. Am I in the wrong?
Well,
It's going full on Azov over
Ali's out
here.
of town and I have nothing to do tomorrow, so
Dude,
maybe
binge it.
we'll binge it.
At least finish Mandalorian.
Fuck, I don't know if
I
we
just
can talk about
I
this
got
now.
bored of Mandalorian after the whole spider episode.
spider
Oh,
episode.
you're still in
Bunch of
season
spiders.
1.
No, that's season 2.
Is it?
It's like
The
episode
spider was
3.
season 2. I'm pretty.
Oh, okay. It does get kind of like slow paced.
Yeah, it got a little
it's so
slow, and I
heavily
was
like
like,
focused on like a
Did
weird.
you get to Bill Burr? Is Bill Burr back?
Yeah, Bill Burr was back, and I was like, why is this guy in Mandalorian, dude?
Because he's amazing.
It's so random and funny. I'm like, this guy has a Boston accent on a different universe.
Get that blasted out of my face, Mando! I got anger problems. My dad used to beat me.
Go Red Sox.
Okay, so this is.
What a guy.
How do you feel about like spoilers and stuff, Grant?
Dude, I'd really, if it's Book of Boba Fett, I really do want to watch it.
Okay.
If we
Alright.
could avoid it, I really would like that.
Okay.
If you guys would like, we can talk about how bad Morbius was, but I'm not gonna.
No, I want to talk about Boba Fett, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna do my best to navigate around spoilers and not give anything.
Should I just plug my ears and sing?
What do you think, David? What do you think? Because I finished it at this point, and I've got things I want to bounce off of you.
If he's yet to see like even one episode, maybe
I haven't seen one episode.
Maybe table it. Because even the first one was like the foundation for like the rest of it.
Okay. Well, no, I'll let me
I'm about
just.
to go home and watch it right this second.
I'll pull it up. Let's go.
We could just watch it right now. Let me put it like this. This is no spoil. I'm going to keep all spoilers out of it. So you've got original trilogy.
Yeah.
In the original trilogy, Boba Fett appears for like very little amount of screen time. All you know of him is that he stands there, he looks cool, he's got a cool voice, because remember the original voice.
And
Right
A
now,
New
when you said
Hope,
Tamura
in
Morrison.
the original theatrical release, like you don't even see Boba Fett. I think.
The first one in like Star Wars Episode 4.
Yeah.
But he in Episode 5 and Episode 6.
Then you see him.
He mainly appears at the end of Episode 5 and is briefly at the beginning of Episode 6 before unceremoniously getting accidentally stabbed in the jetpack, having some
Boba Fett.
silly Boba Fett.
Where?
Ah! Fucking Sarlacc burps.
And then like
It's
Luke
gross.
force kicks, like completely like actually misses, but it's a force kick now in like retrospect.
So basically, like 3 cool lines of dialogue and a cool
Yeah.
outfit. The one thing I will say that like gives credence to people liking Boba Fett, he's the only person throughout the entire trilogy to stand up to Darth Vader besides Luke. He's the one person to like get like stand like not back up when Darth Vader gets in his fucking face. That says something.
Darth Vader has to be like,
even
hey.
if it's a 2-minute interaction, it's like, okay, this guy ain't afraid of like the scariest guy in the galaxy. He must be pretty badass.
They both have helmets.
Would you guys be
They mean
down?
business.
Would you guys be down for like a redo on the prequels? Like if I would love an Anakin story that was like just with modern technology now.
The prequels?
Yeah, I feel like it'd be so sick. Because like it's like Star Wars is all about Darth Vader. Like if they could just make that story sicker instead of the Phantom Menace and all that bullshit.
I'm gonna be honest, unpopular take here. I love the prequels. I
have more.
That's how
respect for
politics
them.
actually fucking works. It's boring and dry, but at the end of the day, it's boring and dry 99% of the time until a fucking purge happens, and then everyone's all fucking,
How did
oh
that
my god,
happen?
what the fuck is going on? We
Yeah.
were just sitting here on our asses thinking everything was good for the last however many decades. Why are they're invading the Jedi Temple? Oh, yeah, I don't want to get killed either. You're right, I am anti-Jedi. Now, is there a bell to let me know when to stop clapping? I thought it was fucking great. I
I think they were all good except Phantom Menace.
I like the Phantom Menace, man.
Okay, but why do you not like the Phantom Menace?
Good question.
Honestly, well, I feel like
Is it like just Jar Jar Binks?
it's a lot of it. I feel like it's not just Jar Jar Binks, but it's like the CGI in Phantom Menace is like so like hard to get behind now.
It
And then
relies
also,
too much.
I
on
feel
CG.
like they should have made the child actor like older, like not super old. Like, how old do you think that guy is in Phantom Menace? Like he's like 10, 9,
12, maybe.
I feel like maybe they should have got a 14-year-old to play a 12-year-old. Because not that saying he's like super bad, but I feel like if we had someone that was like a little bit more mature, it would have been better.
Just like a better child actor.
Yeah.
Here's
I don't want to hate on him because I know he got a lot of hate.
hot take here.
But
I think I'm not Jake Lloyd, the child actor who plays Anakin, and Hayden Christensen who play him in Episode 2 and 3. I fucking like the performance.
I like Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
I like
I
both
like
of their
Hayden.
You want to know why I like
Other
him?
than that one line where he's like, Sand, it's coarse.
I like it. You want to know why I like it? Because Anakin is a socially retarded sociopath.
He was a slave.
But why is he that?
Because he's a fucking slave.
He was a slave with like magical powers and was like, hey, you're gonna like fucking save the galaxy, kid. And he's like, okay, wait a minute. I went from like a slave.
Well,
but I feel like that wasn't portrayed properly. Because like most people don't think of him like a slave, you know?
Well, maybe your first viewing around, you know, but like when you have all the context,
a couple hours of a movie,
yeah,
so you can only do so much.
Exactly, yeah. And you know, once you put all the pieces, because that's the thing, is your first viewing of a movie is just that. It's your first viewing. It's an introduction. You have to watch a movie like 3, 4, 5 times to really appreciate everything about it.
All right, I'm gonna watch the prequels and Book of Boba Fett. And I'm so stoked because I'm like, I have nothing to do.
Okay, yeah. You're hemming this in. I like that.
Isn't it crazy how like vital Tatooine is to like the entire Star Wars like universe?
Yeah, it's almost it's like the desert. It's like Egypt essentially.
Yeah, like,
it's in the biblical story of Star Wars. Tatooine is Egypt. Everything comes back to.
Can we
Egypt.
hypothetically wrap up this podcast? So if in any case,
hypothetically we could. Will we actually in practice? I don't know. We could be here.
I'm just saying, if you ever want to publish this thing, should we put an ending on it? So
we will. We're getting there. Okay. Well,
I mean,
okay. Grant needs to go.
I'm running out of time here.
Yeah.
We're getting there, Grant.
I just want to treat my friends off air, you know?
Impossible.
So I can start seeing the racist shit, you know?
I'm going to say my introductory shit now. We'll do whatever we have to do to entertain you until you leave, and then me and David will get into the nitty-gritty off camera. But
is that where you guys fuck?
No, it's where we talk about the book of fucking Boba Fett. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Albeit, I'll concede that he was a very limited character in screen time and information based off of... You've got the original trilogy. Mm-hmm. But with that limited amount, we still... The little amount we're able to discern is that this guy's a fucking badass who doesn't fuck around and means business.
I mean, yeah.
All it took was 5 minutes.
Dude.
All it took was 5 minutes to get that. He's fucking badass. He means business. Don't fuck with this guy.
Yeah.
Right? Then we've got the prequel trilogy where nothing happens. Episode 1, episode 2, we're introduced to him as a child. He doesn't exist in episode 3; he just disappears. But we see his backstory as his father, who he's a genetic clone of. His father, Jango Fett, is the most badass, feared bounty hunter in the galaxy. Everybody knows who Jango Fett is. Jango Fett, you don't want him on your fucking back because he means business. If Jango Fett coming after you,
finds you, it's when he finds
exactly. Fucking badass. This guy's a genetic exact clone of that. And then we've got the sequel trilogy, which is non-canon.
All right. Let me ask you this: with Mandalorian, like, who is that guy in that story?
He's a refugee of the war that happens in the prequels, and then very like religious kind of like extremist like cult of the Mandalorian people pick him up and raise him as their own.
Mandalorian doesn't like tie into the Book of Boba Fett at all. It's like a standalone series.
Well, it does. Okay, so season 1 of the Mandalorian. At some point in season 2, some stuff happens that you're like, oh, what? Like Boba Fett comes in, and then the Book of Boba Fett happens after the fact, and then they go back and forth where like some of the events that happen in the Mandalorian are like more delved into in the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So basically, what happens? Mandalorian season 1 happens. Mandalorian season 2 happens. At some point in Mandalorian season 2, Boba Fett gets intertwined. The end credit scene at the end of Mandalorian season 2, like post the finale, is a scene where Boba Fett goes and takes over Jabba's palace, and it's like Book of Boba Fett coming soon.
Yeah.
Oh, spoiler.
So, season 1 and season 2 of The Mandalorian were like Disney kind of like making it up to the Star Wars community and being like, we heard you, we fucked up, we get it, they suck, we're going to put out this content that you guys like. And then they put out the Book of Boba Fett, which was like the halfway point between The Mandalorian, good content that we liked, and going back to being shitty, Disney-fied sequel trilogy bullshit. It could have been good. It could have been good. He turns into a bitch. He turns into a guy who's supposed to be an anti-hero.
I don't want to say he becomes woke, but
Well,
there are
the
elements
thing is,
of
like,
that.
Star Wars
So
is
ba- so
literally
basically-
a fucking star western. It's a western movie in the fucking in
In
space.
the galaxy, yeah.
Well,
And
let
it's
me
like,
put
why
it
we
like
have to
Space
fucking-
this
opera
isn't too much a
Western
spoil.
is-
I don't think this will spoil too much for Grant here or anybody who isn't affiliated with the show. But I think you'll understand this. The comment that I really appreciate that I feel like summarizes it great is that the most Boba Fett thing that we saw out of the entirety of the Book of Boba Fett was the end credit scene at the end of The Mandalorian, where he bursts in, he fucking shoots people, he says, "This is my fucking place now," and he sits on the throne with his helmet fucking on, how it's supposed to be, and is like, "I'm the boss now." If that scene happened rather than at the end scene and the end credit scene of Mandalorian 2, it was the opening scene to Book of Boba Fett, he would have knocked on the door. They would have told him to fuck off. Fennec Shand would have killed everybody, and he would have been like, "Wow, was that really necessary?" He would have walked into the throne room and told Bib Fortuna, "Hey, I'm taking over now." And then Bib Fortuna would be like, "No." And he'd be like, Fennec Shand would have pointed the gun at him. Bib Fortuna would have left alive. And then Boba Fett would have taken his helmet off and then sat on the throne and been like, thank you for letting me sit here. I appreciate the gesture." Just totally
All right,
ballless.
I'm about to fucking go home and watch this entire season.
I was so disappointed with Boba Fett, man. I was so... It's not him. It's just not him. You could take the 5 minutes of him that existed in the first episode 5 and 6, and it still doesn't line up. like that 5 minutes alone.
Why did they do that?
Because it's fucking Disney, and they can't even like. He's taking. He's like literally says like, "I'm the new crime boss now." Like, all right, well, we need to kill some people. It's like, no, I'm anti-killing. It's like, well, we should beat him up. Nah, I'm anti-torture. It's like, well, we should at least take over the drug trade. Nah, I'm anti-drugs too. It's like, then why are you the crime boss?
Are you crying?
This doesn't fucking make sense.
crime
Do you know
is?
what crime means? Yeah, do you know what that word crime
that
means?
Make sense too, because like, wasn't it the fucking that one guy that did the Mandalorian? Is the same director, right?
Dave Filoni or Filoni.
Yeah, he probably got an earful from Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy was probably like, hey, The Mandalorian was too good. All those fucking white cis males.
We got too many views.
Yeah, we got too
We
many.
actually want less views. It turns out we actually want to be in the orange, where it's between really good and like, too many men. So we're gonna do right here.
You're setting the bar too high for everything else.
There's
from
too
this
many.
point.
I don't want. If I'm Kathleen Kennedy, I don't want the common people liking my show. I just want it to be either college students who can't get jobs or the military. And we know exactly what direction we're going in. Oh my god.
I will agree. Kathleen Kennedy, the worst thing to happen for Star Wars.
She's the.
Can we end this podcast?
She's
so we can
the-
talk candidly.
Kathleen Kennedy is the worst thing to happen to Star Wars since Palpatine.
Hey, you shut your mouth.
She's like to Star Wars what dogs are to cats.
Let me
Like-
let me guess. You don't like V for Vendetta,
Actually, I've been meaning to watch that.
dude.
You haven't
I watched it recently.
I've never seen it. No.
You've never seen V for Vendetta?
See, isn't that amazing? Like of all the people,
It's so relevant
you would
now.
think.
It's so relevant now.
I've been meaning to watch it every fucking night, but every
It's on
night I'm like,
Netflix.
You'd watch like a 6-hour movie of Watchmen, but not.
I know.
A
it's-
3.5 hour movie of me.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Oh my
when
God,
when it
that's
comes
so
down to it,
creepy.
am I going to watch a 2.5 hour movie or am I going to play Red Dead for
There it
2.5
is.
hours? I play
Red Dead.
Red Dead
Yeah.
every time.
Anyways, this was a lot of fun. We're going to say what we really feel off camera now. So thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.